agenda is covered. Public comment? Is there any public comment? Okay, moving on to item number 2, consideration and approval of the agenda and its posting.
It has been posted in accordance with Nevada law.
Item number 3, Sandra Michelle Smith, appeal of termination pursuant to Cosmetology Board Employee Manual Section 790, pursuant to the NRS 241.030, Section 1. The board may, do I need to go into that? Yes. Okay. The board may vote to go into closed session to consider the character, conduct, professional competence, or physical or mental health of Sandra Michelle Smith. Any action taken by the board must be in an open session. I will turn that over to Sarah Bradley. And I will also make note that our court reporter will swear in all witnesses.
For the record, could we have roll call?
Thank you,
before we start?
Sarah. She just made note of that. I'll start on this end.
Jeanette Nally, board members present.
Linda Sesselberg, Secretary and Treasurer, President.
Kathy Ditzler, board chair, present.
Deborah Jones, board member present.
Kimberly Arguello, Senior Deputy Attorney General for the board.
Sarah Bradley, Deputy Attorney General for board staff.
Vince Judo, Executive Director.
Deborah Blasco, accountant.
Lori Alexander, Office Manager.
Mr. Jimler received a phone call this morning from Ms. Smith's attorney's office indicating that they requested a continuance of the matter because he is traveling back from vacation and is not going to be arriving until what we were told was, I think, 4 or 5 tonight. So we said that we would put that request before the board, that continuance request. I will say for the record, I do object to that request. This meeting has been scheduled for approximately 4 weeks. Notification has been made to all the parties. We have flown in 2 board members plus me for the meeting. We've hired a court reporter, and so the board's gone to a lot of time and effort to have the meeting here today. And so I would object to the continuance request. I don't know if Ms. Smith wants to comment on that continuance request before we go forward, but we let them know that we would put it to the board and the board would vote on that.
Yes. We need to swear her in.
Yes.
Or just listen.
If you're going to take testimony from her, yes, you might as well just swear her in now if she's sworn.
Okay. Stand up, would you just swear her in?
Do you swear the following testimony you're about to give truth, the truth, and the truth? Yes.
I really wasn't going to testify. I was just going to ask a question. Aren't I entitled to legal representation? Even though this appeal date was set like 4 weeks out, his reservations for his family vacation was made last year, and it was something with the weather. He went out of the country, so that's something I can't help, nor he can help.
The proceeding that we're here for today is in your employee manual 790. There is no requirement in 790 that she be represented by counsel. She can bring someone with her, but she's not required to. The procedure we're following today is NAC 284814, which we did provide a copy to Ms. Smith and her attorney. The board's not required to follow the procedures outlined in NAC 284, but we're using that as guidance because the board doesn't have its own employment procedures. It says a party may appear in person and may be represented by an attorney or another person of his choice if the party chooses not to represent himself. That's what it says. So she can be represented by an attorney or someone else, or she can represent herself. There's no requirement that she have an attorney represent her. I understand that her attorney had this arranged, but to me, what a prudent person would do in that situation is say 4 weeks ago when they received the notice, I'm supposed to be getting back the day before, the morning of the hearing. Can it be pushed back a week or 2? 4 weeks ago, we would have been very happy to move the hearing date if it wasn't convenient for the opposing attorney. I understand that maybe it was not expected that he'd be delayed, but if it's our understanding he's out of the country, and to me, that's a significant flight. And again, I think a prudent person says, I need to have this continued because I may need that, and we would have been happy to do that 4 weeks ago. Mr. Guelo was here to give the board guidance if the board needs it, as you decide what to do about the continuance request.
We're not taking any questions and answers from the audience.
I'll move it to continue on with the city of Perry, or Dr. Smith.
I'll second. Motion made by Member Benaldi, seconded by Member Jones. Any discussion? I personally feel the same way. I feel like she should have done that, but anyway. I think we should move forward. There was plenty of us. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Well, the procedure we're following, and I don't know, do you have a copy of NAC 284-814, Ms. Smith? I believe one was sent with your notification letter. If not, I can request that one be made for you. Does that outline the procedure we're going to follow today for the hearing? Oh, thank you. Here's a copy for you. This is what we're going to do. So the first thing is that I'll make a statement, an opening statement regarding the termination, and then you can make an opening statement now if you want, or you can wait until after I call on my witnesses to make your statement then. So it's up to you. And if you want, you can take a seat. You don't have to stand the whole time. So we're here today regarding the termination of Ms. Sandra Smith. The decision was made by the Executive Director, Ms. Jimno, after conducting an investigation into allegations of insubordination by Ms. Smith. Mr. Jimno interviewed 5 witnesses. One was the supervisor, Ms. Gloria Alexander, and 4 other witnesses that we talked to about this insubordination. He also talked to Ms. Smith about it. He wrote a report. We have statements from all the witnesses, and we have witnesses here to testify about the alleged insubordination. And based on the conclusion of his investigation, Mr. Jimno decided to terminate Ms. Smith. He did place Ms. Smith on administrative leave while he was doing the investigation so that she was not penalized at all for that investigation. At the conclusion of the investigation, Mr. Jimno decided that termination was appropriate based on the fact that he believed the allegations were substantiated and that there were inappropriate threats and comments made against Ms. Alexander by Ms. Smith, and that this insubordination could not be tolerated in the board office, and that his obligation was to ensure the safety of all the employees, and so therefore he decided that termination was appropriate. And we believe that the testimony and exhibits we have today will support Mr. Jimno's decision, and we would ask that the board decide to uphold the termination of Ms. Smith.
Ms. Smith, you can have an opening statement too.
I'll wait after witnesses are interviewed.
Well, this is an opening statement.
She can reserve her opening until after I finish my case if she would like.
Okay.
Okay, the first witness I would call would be Mr. Jimno.
I do.
Mr. Jimno, would you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Vincent Jimno, Jimno. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada State Board of Health and
As a part of your duties as as Executive Director for the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology, did you become aware of an allegation of insubordination by Ms. Smith in September of this year?
Yes, I did.
And how did that happen?
On Thursday, September the 8th, while I was out of town on board business, I received a telephone call from Miss Gloria Alexander, who is the supervisor of the licensing division of the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology. She reported that approximately 7:45 on September the 7th, an incident related to an insubordinate behavior towards her in the presence of 4 other employees occurred by Miss Sandra Michelle Smith, an administrative assistant 1 in the licensing unit.
And I think you said 7:45. I think you meant 4:45.
4:45 in the afternoon,
Okay.
just before closing day.
And so then what happened?
Upon return to the office on Tuesday, September the 13th, I interviewed Miss Alexander as to the regarding the incident to gather information. I began looking into this incident after interviewing Miss Alexander, and after determining that it was a situation worthy of an investigation, I requested Miss Alexander prepare a statement of what occurred in her own words and give it to me when it was completed. At that point, I called in Miss Sandra Michelle Smith and asked her about the incident. She indicated she did not recall any incident at the time on Wednesday, September 7th of 2011, or about that time that was reported. However, she said it was something could have happened on September 8th.
Okay, and then what'd you do?
Because she couldn't recall the incident, I told her to think about it for a little while and then respond to me one way or the other as whether she recalled the incident and the details of the incident if she did recall it. And she returned several days later with a statement via the internet, email to me personally that said, "Dear Vince, I do not recall any incident on the day in question concerning the insubordination I was falsely accused of. Please contact me and let me know when you have completed the investigation."
And so I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I did.
And what is it?
It's an email that I printed off my email system that the state maintains for me.
Okay, and this is an email from Ms. Smith?
Ms. Smith using somebody else's email address, but signed Sandra Smith.
Do you have any objection to the admission of this Exhibit 1 into evidence? No? Okay. I would ask that State's Exhibit 1 be admitted into evidence.
So did.
And then what did you do, Mr. Newman?
At the completion of that interview, I indicated to you that insubordination is a situation of potential violence or threats of violence in any working office is something that is extremely important. And I indicated to her that the safety of all individuals involved, that I was placing her on administrative leave, paid administrative leave, and she was not to come back to work until I called for her to do so. And in the meantime, I would be completing an investigation into the incident that had been described.
Okay. And so then you started interviewing witnesses?
Yes, I did. I began interviewing all the witnesses that were involved reportedly involved as either witnesses of the incident or nearby.
Who was the first witness that you interviewed?
On the afternoon of September the 13th, I was able to call in one of our then temporary employees, who's now a regular employee, a Tracy Ray Spence, who is a administrative assistant 1, at the time was a temporary working in that position, and asked her about the incident.
And what did Ms. Spence say?
Ms. Spence went on to say that she was sitting in her assigned workstation, which would be one position behind where Ms. Smith sits, and near by was Nadine Griego, and she could recall that another individual by the name of Kaisha Travis was present
she say about the alleged incident regarding Ms. Smith, her comments about Ms. Alexander?
She indicated that what she observed was Ms. Alexander was walking away and Ms. Smith made some comments that took her off balance. She said it concerned her significantly. She said, indicated that Ms. Smith had indicated in response to Ms. Alexander walking away, we can take this into the parking lot. Further, Ms. Smith was heard to say, I've been to jail before, I'll go again. Ms. Spence then indicated the tone and harshness of the comments made her feel very uncomfortable and a bit frightened. Additionally, she indicated that Ms. Smith made comments of a similar nature twice more as she walked out of the parking lot after work. Ms. Spence indicated that she told Ms. Smith that she should not be saying things like that because it was scaring her. Upon the completion of the interview, Ms. Spence was asked to prepare a statement and sign it and deliver it to me as soon as possible.
And did she prepare a statement regarding her recollection of the incident?
Yes, she did.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 4. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
It's a statement addressed to me from Ms. Spence indicating that on Wednesday, September the 7th at approximately 4:50 p.m., she heard Senator Michelle Smith make a harmful threat against manager Gloria Alexander. She said the following, we can take this out in the parking lot. I've been to jail once, I'll go back again. These comments made me feel uncomfortable and frightened. She mentioned 2 other times on our walk to the parking lot. I said to her, don't say that, you're scaring me. But she continued. It's signed by Ms. Smith, Ms. Spence.
I showed a copy of what State's Exhibit 4 that Mr. Jimner just read to Ms. Smith. Do you have any objection to it being admitted?
Yes, did she come in?
She will be here, so if you like, we can wait to admit it until she testifies.
Right.
That's fine.
Can we just have to cut down time since, the price of this is so expensive? Can we just have them come in? Can we just hear their testimonies?
Well, I need to have Mr. Jimno testify, and then I'll call in each of the witnesses. Okay. Mr. Jimno, who is the next person that you interviewed?
Later that day, I was able to interview Ms. Anaya Powell, who is Administrative Assistant 2, who channels the testing portion of our licensing procedure, which is a co-worker of Ms. Smith at the time. And I talked to her about the incident. Ms. Powell recalled the incident. She gave a rather detailed account of what had happened. In addition, she was able to allude to some history that led up to the incident itself.
And what did Ms. Powell tell you?
She indicated that she was scheduled for, a few days before this incident, she was scheduled for a vacation and was not going to be present. On August 26th, she gave Ms. Smith, her co-worker in the testing department, instructions as to what work needed to be done, both verbally and via an email. Although the two are co-workers, Ms. Powell is the Administrative Assistant 2 and the lead person in the unit. Additionally, she indicated that 2 of the temporary employees were going to assist Ms. Smith in accomplishing the work that needed to be completed before her return. Upon her return, she noted that only about 25% of the work that was needed to be done had actually been completed. The 25% that was completed was accomplished by one of the temporaries, Tracy Spence. The work that Ms. Spence completed related to converting files from applications to formal files. The other work was scanning and uploading of the files into the data system, with little, if any, work of that had been done. When Ms. Powell noted that the work had not been completed, she brought the information to the attention of her supervisor, Ms. Alexander. Ms. Alexander subsequently met with Ms. Smith and ordered her to complete the work as soon as possible. Ms. Powell indicated this reassignment of scanning and uploading appeared to upset Ms. Smith. However, Ms. Smith did begin to work on the previous mentioned work. Later that afternoon, about 4:45 p.m., Ms. Alexander brought a number of additional files over to Sandra's desk and was attempting to place them on Ms. Smith's desk. However, the process, several of the files began slipping, forcing Ms. Alexander to rapidly put all the files down quickly. Ms. Powell indicated that the motion of the rapidly putting down the files may have appeared to be slamming them down because of how it happened. She later went on to say she felt that Mrs. Smith may have perceived the files were intentionally slammed down. At this point, Ms. Alexander began walking away. Ms. Alexander did not say anything at the time, but Mrs. Smith began to mumble to herself and began quickly cleaning up her work area as it was nearing quitting time. Ms. Powell indicated that Ms. Smith said, I don't have time for this. It don't make no never mind, and we can meet in the parking lot and take care of this. Ms. Powell indicated that she perceived it as a threat of harm. Ms. Powell further indicated that she told Ms. Smith, girl, what the hell are you talking about? Ms. Smith did not look at Ms. Powell, but responded with, Anaya, don't play with me. Ms. Powell indicated that she perceived her comments at this time were pointed at her and that she was being threatened with some sort of combative activity in the parking lot. Ms. Powell indicated that it made her turn to Nadine Griego, another employee, and Ms. Spence, and asked, what is she talking about? Ms. Powell indicated that she indicated it would be best, she felt it would be best for her to walk away before the situation got out of hand.
And then what did Ms. Powell tell you?
She further went on to say that it upset her sufficiently that she walked over to Ms. Alexander's office and advised her that Sandra was upset and talking about meeting someone in the parking lot. She went on to say that she was leaving immediately because the situation had upset her. Upon completion of the interview, Ms. Powell was asked to prepare a statement of her recollection relating to the incident and return it to me as soon as possible.
And did she prepare a recollection statement for you?
Yes, she did.
And I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State Exhibit 5. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, it's the memo that was sent to me by Ms. Powell.
Thank you. Okay, and then who was the next witness that you spoke to?
On September 20th, I had the opportunity to interview Nadine Griego, Management Analyst 1. Ms. Griego confirmed the incident and perceived that Ms. Smith was upset and made several comments relating to Ms. Alexander. Ms. Griego indicated that she only could hear parts of the comments, but did recall a comment by Ms. Smith made about meeting in the parking lot. Overall, Ms. Griego has noticed an increasing hostility by Ms. Smith toward Ms. Alexander. Ms. Griego described in the interview a description of Ms. Smith that she had perceived that Ms. Smith had strong negative feelings toward Ms. Alexander. Ms. Griego always asked to prepare a statement of her recollection of the incident and return it to me.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 3. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
That's the memo sent to me directly from Ms. Griego regarding the incident.
And who was the next witness that you spoke to about this?
Finally, the fourth witness in the incident that was identified. This person worked as a temporary administrative assistant, one who is currently no longer with the board's office. She was a temporary to fill in vacancies. However, she was still working for the board and was present during the incident on Wednesday, September 21st of 2011, so I had a chance to interview her. This last interview was with Ms. Keisha Travis of Manpower Incorporated. Ms. Travis indicated she had observed the incident. Ms. Travis indicated that this was a specific incident that occurred late in the afternoon on September the 7th, 2011, near quitting time. Ms. Travis indicated that earlier that afternoon, Ms. Smith had been called into Ms. Alexander's office regarding Ms. Smith being 30 minutes late coming back from a lunch break. It was apparent that Ms. Smith was not happy with the counseling session when she came out. Later that afternoon, Ms. Alexander placed a number of files on Ms. Smith's desk and was heading back toward her own office when Ms. Smith seemed to become upset and began making hostile and negative comments loud enough for everyone around her to hear about Ms. Alexander.
And what did Ms. Travis say that she said?
Ms. Alexander's observations were similar to the other person's. However, Ms. Travis's observations were similar to the other person's in the room. However, Ms. Travis indicated that this was not the first time Ms. Smith has made negative and inappropriate remarks about Ms. Alexander. The first time it occurred was several weeks ago prior, when Ms. Smith indicated to Ms. Travis, "I can't stand Gloria. I would catch the bitch in the parking lot and fuck her up." That evening, Ms. Travis warned Ms. Alexander to be careful when she left for home in the evening. Initially, Ms. Travis indicated that Ms. Smith had made comments to the effect that she hated Gloria and didn't have any respect for her.
And did you ask Ms. Travis to prepare a statement regarding her recollection of what happened on September 7th?
Yes, I did. Upon completion of the interview, I asked Ms. Travis to prepare a document of her recollection of what occurred on September 7th and asked her to return it to me as soon as possible. Ms. Travis hand-delivered a statement to me on the morning of September the 22nd, 2011.
And I'm showing you what's pre-marked in State's Exhibit 6. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do. That's the statement delivered to me by Ms. Travis personally.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 6. Do you have any objection to that being admitted? I'd ask that State's Exhibit 6 regarding Ms. Travis's statement be admitted into evidence.
So admitted.
So then what did you do, Mr. Jimrow?
Because of the severity of the allegations and the implication that this employee is having work performance issues, I reviewed Ms. Smith's work performance since the last time I had seen Ms. Smith's performance appraisal in June of 2000, since June 7th of 2011, which is the normal appraisal period. At that time, she was functioning reasonably, sufficiently to survive as a regular employee. In discussing the employee's performance with Ms. Alexander, it was determined that a 6 months probationary period of appraisal performance has been declining since that date. Ms. Alexander noted that Ms. Smith was counseled several times on various issues related to her performance. Of those, they included the counseling for failure to provide required detail on handling monetary transactions on August the 4th, counseled on being late from breaks on August the 5th, counseled and given written notice of excessive use of sick leave on August the 18th, counseled for being 30 minutes late from lunch break and not completing work in a timely fashion or misrepresenting her to her supervisor that the work was not completed when it in action. Work that was completed when it had not been from November 2010 through September 2011. Coming in late, admitted to the executive director on one occasion where she admitted to me and apologized for being late to work. When I mentioned to her supervisor later counseled her, asked her about it, and she declined or did not admit that she was late that morning. Observed the number of employees observed that a number of employees mentioned that she was avoiding contact with the public and would transfer calls whenever she felt she could handle the call itself and gave it to others. With that, and the final item that I noted in the research was failed to accept constructive criticism to improve her work performance and generally blame others in the staff for her shortcomings.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 7. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is a document that I did on a separated document that I did on her work performance dated September the 27th, 2011.
And that document indicates in more detail the findings that you just told us for the record?
Yes.
Ms. Smith, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 7. Do you have any objection to that being admitted into evidence? Yes. I'd ask that State's Exhibit 7 be admitted into evidence. It's an analysis of work performance by Mr. Jimno.
So admitted.
Jim, what were the findings that you determined?
I found 6 findings after analysis of all the information that I collected, listened to all the witnesses of the incident, and made the final conclusions of the 6 items of concern.
And what were those 6 items?
Ms. Smith did make inappropriate statements indicating significant dislike for her supervisor. 2, she made combative, threatening comments relating or indicating she would meet her supervisor in the parking lot and cause her harm. 3, work performance had significantly deteriorated after completing the normal probationary period. 4, demonstrated increasing levels of resistance to constructive criticism or direction by her supervisor. 5, lied about completing work assignment and instead stored the work out of sight until the work was discovered by the supervisor. 6, admitting being late to work to the executive director and then later denying it to her supervisor.
And what was your conclusion and recommendation?
My conclusions were based on the findings of the interviews of the employees and a validation that the incident of threatening remarks and threatening of remarks of harm did in fact occur on September the 7th. It was validated by 4 other individuals who were present at the time, and the fact that she had denied completely that it ever occurred, and the fact that there was a hostile environment created by her actions, and that it would be inappropriate to replace her back into the environment at this time. So the conclusion I arranged is that the progressive discipline would no longer be appropriate because progressive discipline deals with retraining, rehabilitation, and that sort of thing. And in this case, this was an unsafe condition to put an individual who's making threats like that back in the work environment to continue that kind of behavior. Lastly, that her work environment, her work performance over the last several months prior to the incident were in a rapidly declining state, and that she was now avoiding certain activities that she either didn't like or wasn't willing to do anymore. So I recommended termination as the appropriate discipline. I found her in violation of several policies that the board has approved in the employee's manual that every employee gets, is supposed to read and sign that they've read and understand it. The conduct, there was the primary one, there was 6 major, there's 6 policies that I thought were violated through my investigation. First was policy 104, business and ethics and conduct relating to the job. 2, maintaining safety within the work environment. All employees are responsible for that. Rest and meal periods were not being observed properly. Workplace violence prevention, she had made comments that escalated a hostile condition. Employee conduct and work rules, violation of the way that employees are required to perform as well as act while they're on duty. And then finally, attendance and punctuality.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 8. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, it's not the report I prepared is called the Investigation Report, September 28, 2011.
And is this report something you prepared in the course and scope of your duties as executive director?
Yes, it is. It was prepared at the completion of the investigation.
I'd ask, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 8. Do you have any objection to that being admitted into evidence? I'd ask that State's Exhibit 8 be admitted into evidence. And so what did you do at the conclusion of your investigation, Mr. Janelle?
The determination that related to the termination of the employee were as follows. The findings of the investigation of insubordination and threats against her supervisor were validated in my mind. The review of the work performance that she was hired and significant deterioration in employee work performance, and an attitudinal change since over the last 6 months after the date of her becoming a regular employee. And the conclusion of further training of the employee would not likely be productive in changing the situation. 4, the employee's propensity to blame others for her lack of acceptable work performance and misrepresentation or denying of inappropriate actions on her part that were confirmed by others who directly observed the actions and behavior, and the intensity of her expressed personal negative feelings and the nature of the threats she displayed in the presence of others towards her employee, towards her supervisor on several occasions, led me to believe that there was no alternative but termination.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 9. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, it's the formal letter of notice of termination that I prepared.
And did you give that to Ms. Smith?
Yes, I did.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 9. Do you have any objection to that being admitted? I'd ask that State's Exhibit 9 be admitted. In that document, Mr. Jimno, do you summarize the findings of your investigation?
Yes, I do.
And so, can you give us a summary of what the letter says?
Yes, the letter opens with that'll serve as a formal notice to the employee. Goes on to say that I described the incident of the formal threats and the incident September 7, 2011 at 4:45 p.m. The investigation indicates that conclusive and proved insubordination occurred, and it made verbal comments that were threatening in nature, indicating that she wished to do physical harm on her supervisor. These comments were made in the presence of 4 other individuals that were working in the licensing area of her office. But also determined that she made similar comments to employees in earlier dates prior to September the 7th. One witness indicating while you were heading toward the parking lot and deal with that, what she said at that time. And finally, I deal with the fact that I interviewed all the witnesses, and after completing the investigation, came to the conclusions. My overall evaluation conclusion is that your actions were unacceptable, and there isn't a little chance for rehabilitation or retraining that will provide the desired result, nor will it likely reduce the hostility created in the work environment.
And did you give her the notice of the appeal rights that she had of your decision?
Yes, in the last part of the letter, I described the rights she has as far as an employee manual, which includes the following statements. Under Nevada's right to work laws, the absence of labor agreement, and the procedures of the employee manual, there is only one procedure for appeal of my decision. See Employee Manual Policy 790, approved in October of 2009. You have the right to appeal the decision made by the Executive Director to the Board of Cosmetology. If you wish to appeal my decision to terminate your employment, you must file a petition to the Board within 5 working days to hear your appeal to overturn any decision. Once the petition is received, it will be scheduled for the next regular meeting of the Board or a special meeting of the Board if deemed appropriate by the Board. You may not have the rights to unemployment insurance benefits because you are being terminated for cause. However, you will have the rights to COBRA benefits and health care services. You can contact Ms. Debbie Blasco and give a telephone number and extension for information related to the benefits you are eligible to receive.
Well, and pursuant to the letter that you sent her, an appeal request was received from Ms. Smith.
That's correct. Ms. Smith requested a appeal to the Board, and I indicated to her that we would have to consult with the President of the Board to see if a special meeting or a regular meeting was scheduled with the agenda item. And so it was determined by the Board President that a special meeting would be allowed.
Because if we had not scheduled a special meeting, the next meeting wouldn't be until February of 2012.
That's correct.
I have no further questions for Mr. Jimno at this time, although I do reserve the right to ask redirect. I believe now it's time for Ms. Smith to question Mr. Jimno about what he just said.
Okay. Am I going to go in order? Is that okay? Do I have to go in order?
No, you can ask whatever question.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Jimno, if I was such a threat, or so that you thought I was such a threat to come into the office, you called me into the office to pick up my last termination paper. You had me clean out my own desk, and we just had an employee who was terminated. You said that you would meet with her at any Starbucks and for us to tell her. You even had Monica pack her stuff up to take her out, and she didn't threaten anyone. So when I came in here on October 4th to see you, I came in here with the mind that I was getting my job back because all of this was hearsay. So when I left here, I was just baffled because you degraded me by having me clean all my stuff during the day while everybody else was working. Can I ask, why is that? If I was such a threat to anybody in the office, why did I have to come in the office to get my things?
What I indicated to you is that you were a threat in the working environment where you worked. You were not a threat to me, and you were not a threat as long as I was present. I'm a trained ex-law enforcement official. I can analyze whether it is a significant threat at the moment. What I really indicated in the report was that you had created a hostile situation. You were making threats, and it would continue. There was no indication or proof that would show anything but that.
Those are alleged comments. That's all hearsay. I still today say I never threatened Gloria. I never threatened Gloria. That's all hearsay. Tracy was a temp. She had reasons to lie.
I'm gonna,
Oh,
now,
I'm sorry.
it's not your time to testify.
Oh, okay.
It's just your time to ask him questions. You'll have time to present your case
Okay.
and say all that.
Okay.
But now is the time just to ask questions of Vince that you need answered.
Okay,
Yeah.
and about my work, I have 2 grade evaluations. Never was I told my work was declining. You guys have that as, you guys have my evaluation, the 6 month and the,
Yes. No, she'll, do you have copies for the board members?
yes, I think I have just enough.
Hold on. Like council did for you, ask her if she has any objection to the addition of that, and then. The dates
I have no objection to these being admitted. Do you need this copy from the board?
Go ahead and, actually, do you want to mark that as appellant's exhibit A?
Do I leave it with them?
Yeah, do you want that to be one exhibit? How much, what stuff do you have there? Or do you want it separate?
We can go ahead and put it all in there.
Okay.
I don't need to sit down. I have a card here.
You want to get that into evidence?
Yes, please.
So
Okay, I'd like to have this. Will I start with my first exhibit? I'm not a lawyer, so this part I don't know, but I do know my job as a cosmetologist.
Okay, no.
So now it's been admitted to evidence, and now you can give copies to the board if you have the copies.
Do I need
We're
to-
just, you decided to give, designate all, how many pages are in exhibit A for the record?
Is it 4 pages? Oh, that's 2. I think it's 4 pages. Maybe it's not 4. I wouldn't be able to do this myself. It's 7. So it might take me a little bit. I think it's 7 pages.
I believe Mr. Jimmo counted it as 8 pages for appellant's exhibit A, and I'll put a paper on that and try to keep it together.
Change it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Six. And I take the top one off and just have the evaluation. Or we can just turn to the pages as I need them.
That's fine. I mean, it's up to you, but I think we've already admitted it as 8 pages.
Okay.
It's just easier probably to stay with that.
I don't have enough. copies made? Thank you. My attorney was going to be here with this. Thank you.
Yeah, we can allow that.
Can you just go ahead and hand your, the exhibit that you want, the 8 pages, and then we'll.
Thank you.
How many copies?
I think it
Five.
was 8.
Oh,
8 copies altogether?
Do you want to wait and take a break before you get those back, before you ask them any questions about those? Or can you ask them questions before we get those back?
can I take, maybe take a break, please?
Sure.
Okay, we'll take a.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Jimbo, I wanted to go back to me being such a threat after you heard all the testimony.
Do you want to give us the exhibits?
Oh, yes, sorry. I do. I start here?
Thank you.
Okay. Oh.
I did get one, and your court reporter should get the original stamp one.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. Jindal, you stated that you were a police officer, retired police officer?
Yeah, I was chief of police in Fort California City.
Oh, okay. Is it because you were in California, a police officer, you don't have, your duty is not to report any threats made here? Do you still have to swear to that?
No.
You don't have to make that statement, like to the police that
No, there's no requirement on my part to have to report your actions on duty.
So that's not bound by law for the police agent?
Except in certain offenses in every state. Sexual harassment, if it's a
But
violent,
not a violent threat, you said it was a violent threat.
only if I felt it was necessary to keep the peace at the time.
You did say it
You
was
were,
a violent
you
threat,
were,
right?
beg your pardon?
You did say you thought it was a violent threat?
Yeah, after the fact, several days later when I was reviewing all the information.
Okay, and I still had the keys to be able to come into the office. You didn't take any keys from me until October 4th.
Well,
Can
I
you tell
don't
us
recall
why?
when that occurred. I don't recall that.
That occurred October 4th when I picked up my last station.
Ms. Smith, I did not think you were a threat while I was present. It was a situation where you created a hostile atmosphere, and that passed.
Let her finish this question, because she's taking down everything that's being said.
Oh.
Only one person can talk at a time,
Okay.
so.
Your use of the word alleged is
Yes.
your description. After I interviewed all the witnesses, I believe I confirmed the incident and was sufficient.
I don't think, okay, that's not a question. How can you say you confirmed the incident? Would that be their word against mine? Especially two temps, Tracy and Kaisha, who were looking for jobs. Would that be a way for me to get out of the way so they can get permanent jobs? You don't think that?
No, I do not.
Okay. And okay. So you get all your documentation about my work ethics from Anaya? Is that where they came from? And Gloria, did you say?
Normal, there was a number of people who had indicated the issues. Ms. Priego, Ms. Alexander, Ms. Powell, and my own observations.
Okay. What did you observe as far as my
Observe.
work experience?
I brought it to Miss Alexander's attention early on that I thought your work performance was on the low side, even though you were getting a decent evaluation, that you were slow in performing, that I recommended to her that she paid more closer attention to your activities.
Okay, was this before my 6-month evaluation?
That was early on when you were first hired in the first few months. And I was surprised when you got such high evaluations at that time.
Okay, so my evaluation, can you guys take a look at it with me, please?
Sure.
It says,
Which, do you know, are you what page are you looking at in?
page 1 of the March 10th, 2011.
That would be the fourth page down in Exhibit A.
It says serves the public above average, meets quality standards above average, sets a good example above average, pays attention to detail above average, meets standards of attendance, excellent, follows policies and procedures above average, uses common sense above average, adapts to change above average, works well with others, excellent, meets deadlines above average, follows directions above average, respects the rights of others, excellent, self-motivated, excellent, communication skills above average, listening skills above average. And also on the back there was a written from our supervisor. A written statement that we use that page. Development plan. Where it says Sandra has specific skills that appropriate her for her job. She's learned most of the duties that is performed at the front desk. She understands the scope of her responsibilities. There was some concern about how the cell phone was being used in the testing area during the first month of her probation. If it appears that the use of the cell phone in the testing area has stopped, I felt that this issue should be addressed in this evaluation. Sandra's exhibits exhibits an increasing level of self-confidence in her job. She is a good team player and serves the public in a professional manner. I never had a write-up. Gloria.
Do you have a question with that?
Oh, yes. Can you explain to me why I would get such great evaluation if I couldn't do my job?
In my evaluation, what I indicated was your performance prior to early June. It was more than acceptable and you were doing fine. But since that date, it started declining rather rapidly. That's what I indicated in my evaluation, that since that date, it went down. But that isn't why you were terminated. You were terminated because of the comments and the activities you were involved in on September 7th.
Okay, but it's all hearsay. It's all hearsay. I never said that about Gloria. I never said it. It's all
Do you have a
hearsay.
question?
Okay, can you tell me why, if all of you guys were so worried about my threats being made, that nobody ever went to Gloria or you had to call them in for? Please?
No one advised me until the incident. One of the individuals indicated, two of them indicated you made comments like that in the past, but they did not report.
And they heard it on the way to the parking lot, right?
One did on the parking lot. Well, both did.
And they were both tenants.
Yes.
At that time, we were on 8 to 5. We never walked down to the parking lot together.
I don't know about that.
No, I'm asking, do you remember that we were on 8 to 5 schedule when the tents arrived?
No, I think we went on 8 to 5 when Miss Gloria Alexander decided she needed to put them on 8 to 5 because there was a significant backlog.
No, we were on 8. I'm sorry.
I don't know when that occurred. That's the supervisor's responsibility.
It was prior to the tenants coming. We were on 8 to 5. That's why we had to get the temps. And the temps were hired
Ms. Smith,
on, I'm getting ready to ask.
you'll get to say all of
Why
this.
were the temps hired?
We had 2 vacancies, and we had a significant backlog. I wasn't interested in hiring 2 temporaries to just fill in the vacancies. There were 2 of them in the licensing division. Ms. Alexander, the supervisor, asked for 4 because there was a significant backlog in handling renewal licenses due to the conversion of everybody done at once to the DMV model of licensing where it's continued all year long. In that process, we fell significantly behind as far as 8 weeks in the processing. Ms. Alexander and I discussed how many temporaries would be necessary for her to catch that work up. And it was determined that 2 temporaries would be used for fill-in and 2 additional temporaries to help catch the backlog, and then putting everybody on notice that they had to work as fast as they could to help catch up the backlog.
Can I read my second evaluation and then ask a question after that one? This was 6/3/2011.
Okay, so we're looking at, still at your appellant's exhibit A, and I believe that would be the second page down.
Serves public, above average. Meets quality standards, good. Sets a good example, above average. Pays attention to detail, above average. Meets standards of attendance, excellent. And this is in June. I just want to make that note before. Follow policies and procedures, above average. Uses common sense, above average. Adapts to change, above average. Works well with others, above average. Excuse me. Meets deadlines, good. Follows directions, above average. Respects the rights of others, good, not do that. Self-motivated, excellent. Communication skills, above average. Listening skills, above average. And this is the performance appraisal. Sandra isn't able to carry out all the duties and assignments in which she has been trained to perform. She carefully follows all policies and functions and is eager to learn more. Sandra is a self-starter and has learned many other tasks through observation. Sandra is confident enough to ask questions in order to fulfill her responsibilities, and she gets the job done. When given a job to do, Sandra meets quality standards and deadlines. There are areas within the test department that Sandra has not gained knowledge of. She also needs more guidance maintaining the front counter because not all functions have been revealed to her. She's been given more training on the front counter procedures and testing department process. Sandra will be given detailed instructions and help to gain the skills she is lacking to become a well-qualified employee. Sandra should have no problem successfully learning all functions of her job if given an opportunity to learn. This was after we spoke with Ms. Alexander about my declining work ethic.
No, it was before. I talked to her originally on your initial entry into the agency, and then I accepted Ms. Alexander's evaluation of your appraisal and signed it, allowing you to have a step increase at that point.
Right, but you
But
said...
since then is when the decline began to show itself.
But this is the one for June.
That's correct. That's what I said in my investigation.
I thought you said you told her earlier on in March.
I did tell her earlier on, when you first got employed, that your style and performance was slow from my observations, that you were not a high performer.
Okay,
I mentioned that to her, but that was her, you're reading her evaluations, which I accept. I did not do the evaluations, but I accepted the supervisor's opinion and what she wrote on the paper. That was sufficient for me to sign that you were competent sufficiently at that time to get a step raise.
Okay, and now how do you go about looking at my work to see what I've done and how well I've done?
How I do it is I personally go out there and ask the employees. I want to look at work. I follow through on orders given and completed or not completed. I watch you personally to see how you do and how you affect yourself with the customers and the other employees. I'm a very thorough supervisor. I've been one since 1967. So I know how to analyze an employee. I can tell right away whether they're performing at a high level, medium level, or otherwise. Now, my sense is my responsibility that is to then advise the supervisor what I'm observing, and I did that.
Okay. I still didn't get the answer I was looking for. Did you like go through the files to see my initials on anything that said I didn't work at the front desk?
You know, I don't look for initials, I watch the work, I pull a file that you might have worked on recently. I will ask other employees that are working in the same system, example, Ms. Powell, who works in the same unit you are, asking her questions of what her responsibilities are, what she's done, how come we have a backlog, there were several boxes of backlog in there that, if you read my report, it indicated you were supposed to be doing that work while Ms. Powell was gone, and we were providing additional support to you to get it done, and only part of it got done, but it was claimed to have been done. That's a significant indication.
No, I didn't. Okay. No, you said that you got this from Anaya Powell, who was at that time.
I didn't say that. I said part of the information she gave me. I interviewed employees. I personally looked at work you had handled, or you were supposed to have handled. That's how I got my observations.
And what did you observe on the work that you handled that I did?
I thought it was underperforming. I said that.
What could be underperforming about an application?
An example would be the amount of work you handle versus someone else. If you're not aware, but I've been doing the workflow study in the agency, where we actually measure how many things people do, why, how long it takes, what's the next step. So we analyze everything about the process itself, and who gets the paperwork, and which units within the processing unit does more work, and why. So that's how I've been looking at it, Ms. Smith. I've looked at the whole encompassing process and what your role in it was, and how you handle telephone calls, and how you handle contacts with the public at the front desk, and what occurs when you get one of those.
Okay.
So that's how I observed my observations.
Okay. Have you ever observed me being rude or not professional at the front desk or answering a phone call?
No.
Have we ever got any comments from any of the clients or customers about me being rude or
No.
unprofessional?
No, I have not.
But, okay, so all that came from,
From my observations and other people who work with.
okay, so but your observations are, once again, I don't see how you can observe my work ethics by looking at an application.
I didn't do it that way. I don't
So
do
that's
that.
that's what I'm saying, and you're saying the amount of work. Because if you,
Ms. Smith, it's only one part of the bigger picture. There's a lot of other elements in the analysis.
I just want to start here about my work ethics. Because you're saying that I didn't go to the front desk and I didn't answer phone calls. I'm asking you, this is what they said to you, right?
You said that you get phone calls that you didn't either want to take or you didn't like taking, and you handed them off to other people working nearby.
Okay, so you just took their word for that.
Well, you know, it had said to me by more than one person, yes.
Okay, so if everybody else is working as hard as I am, how can they all be keeping their eye on me?
That's an analysis you'll have to determine.
But that's a question, you don't have to answer that question. If everybody in the work area is working, including myself, how can you accept their word for what I'm doing? If everybody is working, that's all I'm asking. If everybody is working, doing their job, just like my evaluation shows, both of them, that I was definitely doing my job and I was here.
In the early months, yes.
But my 6-month evaluation for the last month, it was excellent as well.
And that's what I said, my observations and the information I gathered and the number of times you were counseled all occurred after that.
The number of times I was counseled, I don't have any of that proof that I signed anything saying that I was counseled.
Whenever you're called in by your supervisor, they're taught to acknowledge in a notebook that you've been counseled so they can recall the date.
Okay, what about
And
my
then
signature?
they include that in your evaluation if you have some problems. Your next evaluation wasn't due that. It wasn't due for another 7 or 8 months. But that 4 or 5 months since you were last evaluated, you began to have significant problems. 30 minutes delay coming back from lunch without notice is unacceptable. Making comments necessary that you don't want to handle this call, can you give it to someone else, is unacceptable. Those are the kind of things that you were beginning to be evaluated.
How can you say that that's true, Mr. Goodman? How can you honestly say that that's true? Okay? How can you say that that's true?
Credibility is everything, and I interviewed more than one person and when I get 2 and 3 different views of the same activity, I can then begin to assume there's credibility in that comment. So the issue is, I'm trained to do that. I've been a supervisor for a lot of years. I've hired and fired a lot of folks, and I know how to do that. I've been trained in management theory. So I look at what you do, how you do it, how you relate to the other employees, how the workload is handled by other employees compared to you, and the speed you work at, and that's how I make my observations.
But I've never seen.
Ms. Smith, I think we probably need to move on to the next step of this.
That it's just gonna go there. But we need
I
to
think
move
we're
on.
getting off track.
But I don't think I'm getting off track. I'm trying to figure out why is it that he can just take somebody's word?
And I think he explained that. I mean, you kind of keep asking the same question. That's his answer, and that's going to be his answer. So if you have other questions,
Mr. General, at this time, but can I call him back later?
I do have a couple of redirect questions for Mr. Jimno. Mr. Jimno, let's talk about the difference between allegations and something that you believe to be proven. At the start of an investigation, would you say, at the start of your investigation, that the fact that Ms. Smith acted inappropriately on September 7th was an allegation?
Yes.
And at the conclusion of your investigation, you found that it was?
It was validated that the incident did occur in certain activities.
So at that point in your mind, it was no longer an allegation?
That's correct.
And just to clarify for the board as well, work performance, what I heard you say earlier was work performance was one factor regarding the termination. What was the overwhelming reason that Ms. Smith was terminated?
Comments of harm and threatening comments to another employee in a work environment during work hours is totally unacceptable. And it goes, in progressive discipline, if a kind of activity that can be retrained, rehabilitated, reoriented, you take those extra steps to do that. There are certain violations that lead from that level all the way to termination because of the intensity of the violation, the kind of violation, and the harm that it does to the organizational structure at the time it's occurring, and any extensive prolonging of that incident or that environment is warranted for the executive officer of any agency to cure that harm or potential harm immediately, not through rehabilitation, training, retraining, and that sort of thing, because it's not one of those tasks. An example would be in the law enforcement field, if an officer makes a mistake, and that mistake is functional or procedural, you retrain them. But if they shoot at somebody and they know they're supposed to know they're not supposed to do that, that's a firing offense and different. It's a different kind of offense. So in this case, the violent nature of the comments and the implication and other employees reacting negatively to it is the analysis that says that it needs to be resolved immediately, not prolonged.
Would it be fair to say that even without the decline in performance, that termination would have been your decision?
Yes.
Also, I believe you testified earlier that since 1967 you've been a supervisor or manager of people.
Yes.
And have you seen this before, where someone will perform satisfactory or above satisfactory up until their probation period, and then their performance declines?
Yes.
And can you talk about that?
My education is in management theory of organizations like government. I also have an industrial engineering degree in organizational, what makes organizations work, how to make them faster, better, cheaper, smoother, how to motivate employees. This is quite common that people come on board, they know there's a probationary period, and they think they have to watch their P's and Q's completely to make the probationary period. Once that occurs, it's like a relaxation of, I don't have to worry about it anymore. And then they become more real as they are in normal conditions. So we see that quite frequently in the organizations. So the critical period, in fact, the critical period is so important that when I was a young officer, we had 18-month probation periods for every rank within the agency. When you made a promotion, you had 18 months of probation to prove your worth without owning the job. You were there only as long as you cleared probation. What the critical nature of it is, you've got to get the employee past the sense that they now can do anything they want because they're regular employee. And that's the period usually happens right at the end of probation in the next 4 or 5 months.
So it's something that you've seen before where a person will have satisfactory reviews prior to their probation, and then afterwards you'll start to see problems.
Yeah, you can actually see outstanding performance evaluation, and then at the 1.5-year level or so, 2-year level, you see less than that.
And is that what you would say happened in this case or this one?
My presumption would be that's what I was observing. There was too many kinds of violations, returning to work late, coming in late, hiding work because everybody's doing it, or a sense of that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I think that's what I was seeing. That's the observations that her supervisor was seeing. And I talked at length with her, but I didn't just take her supervisor's word for it. I went out and I confirmed those suspicions with other employees who worked real close proximity.
Thank you, Mr. Dimno. I have no further questions for Mr. Dimno. I don't know if Ms. Smith has additional questions about what we just talked about. And also, before we're done with Mr. Dimno, I think the board gets a chance to question him as well.
Did you have any more questions?
Yes, I did have a question. About what we talked about, were you aware that on Tuesdays and Thursdays that I'm in testing all day long from 8:30 to 3
Yes.
without a break? Nobody relieves me, ever?
Now, there is a break between the tests.
No, there's not. No, there's not. The testing goes from 8:30 to 3. There's no break. No break.
The tests are an hour and a half.
Test. I was a grader for 2 years prior to you guys hiring me on, and Tuesdays and Thursdays I don't get breaks. And also,
But you're a contracted employee under those conditions. When you're an employee,
no, that's against the law. State law about my breaks. But I'm just saying on Tuesday, you wasn't aware of that?
No.
You have cameras in your room where you can watch me. Is that correct?
yes,
Have you ever saw me in the testing room doing anything
Yeah, I
but my
watched
job?
2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes.
And I'm doing an excellent job. Am I correct?
I can't judge that.
You can't judge it by your camera? Why?
I can
why
see
do you
that
guys
you're
have-
there. I can see that they're taking their test.
No, but why do you
But I don't
have
see
to-
what you do. I'd have to come there to see what you're actually doing from start to finish. I don't do that.
Okay. No further questions.
More members have questions? Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I do. Mr. Kuno, one of the questions was, how are you comparing me to other people? And is it not true that you're using what's called a benchmarking report so that you can quantify the amount of paperwork that comes in, pieces of mail, how many applications are processed by person? So you do a comparative analysis, nothing, anything annually. Is that what you were?
We're doing that now with a workflow study, which actually gives you time and motion on how long does it take to do an application, first transaction, what happens to, where does it go next, how long does it take to do that transaction. But as an industrial engineer for many years, and knowing how to do this at staffing levels of 300 and more, yes, that's what I do mentally is I watch. We only have 6 employees in that unit, so I can come in there and stand by and watch for a few minutes every day and see what's occurring in the processing system. And that's what I use. It's a benchmark, but it's a mental benchmark versus the actual numbers being tallied.
Best practices.
Yeah.
Another question I have, as a director that manages the entire office, do you not depend on your managers and supervisors to also contribute information as eyes and ears?
The primary source of information for any executive officer in a larger organization or even medium size is that the supervision, the division commanders or unit supervisors are responsible for running their unit, and you get daily feedback from them. You also get weekly and monthly and strategic discussion-making decisions from them. So the primary information source is generally the unit manager. In this case would be Ms. Alexander. I would take the information she provides to me and analyze that. If there's a need for me to then say, I have suspicion about this particular information, I go out and check it myself. I start watching it on a daily basis until I get a comparison to say, is that observation by that supervisor accurate? I may also interview different employees that are in the region, not knowing what I'm asking about, why. But I'll ask simple questions about who handles this type of work, and how long does that take, and how come that person gets it versus someone else. So that's part of the management analysis of any work.
Anybody else?
I was just wondering about this evaluation. I was seeing decline already after in the second evaluation, but you were saying that the third evaluation wasn't exactly due yet, right?
Yeah, the next evaluation would be 2012 in June, because the way the evaluations are, you get an evaluation the first 90 days. That tells you, under the state policies, we have certain benefits we become eligible for, so we make a decision whether you're going to be kept or not at that point. Then a second evaluation of 6 months, it allows you now to become a regular employee, so a second evaluation is done. And then thereafter, I have every year that you're evaluated for a step, consideration for a step increase. We're on a 10-step program, so that means that at least every year you get an evaluation. I have the authority to order an evaluation. Prior to that, anytime I sense that an employee is not performing well or needs retraining or a problem needs to be resolved.
It was brought up with the time that is spent doing different jobs in the office, and which you're doing an evaluation on those. And this is when a person takes a position, do they know exactly what their job duties will eventually entail?
Yeah, we have job descriptions on every job, but what we do is through the early months, the first 6 months, they're actually hands-on training with anything they're being taught. Now, with Ms. Smith's case, there was some concern about activities that Ms. Powell should have been training Ms. Smith to do, and it wasn't happening. So I inquired about it. Ms. Alexander made special efforts to make sure that retraining or training was continued until Ms. Smith was, quote, adequately trained to do that. I don't know if that finalized in final form, but I know that activity was going on. And some of it had to do with Ms. Powell not wanting to do it for whatever reason or not doing it. But the bottom line is every employee is fully trained and retrained until they learn the job and can do it by themselves without assistance.
And so they are aware of any time, especially in Ms. Smith's position, she also handled testing or did work in the testing room.
Her assignments are, it was testing unit, or student employees in the testing unit. Because she's a licensed cosmetologist and she had gone through the training to be a rater, on occasion or frequently the agency could use her as a rater in the testing room. It does not relieve her from the testing unit processing work, but that she serves in that capacity. The other days that there's no testing, she does license processing information coming from the schools, who then are sending in documents of enrollments and students who've now completed their required training or ready for testing. And they're processing those documents. They then schedule them for testing procedures, and they make files on it. When they complete that testing process, then some of the activities that are in the testing unit was to convert the files from the student category to final form licensee files. And so those are the activities they work on. Now, she doesn't work on that all 5 days or 4 days, depending on the schedule, but she does work on at least 2 days a week on those tasks.
Okay, and so she did not make you aware that she was working all day with no budget?
No.
That was never brought to your attention?
No. It's against the law. So I should have been notified.
Barry, she knew that was against the law, but there's no evidence that she notified anyone. She wasn't getting her breaks or lunch hours.
Not that I'm aware.
supervisor as to her working ability?
Yes, Ms. Alexander reviewed a document she had where she had tallied the different consultations and what she was counseling her on. And generally, I usually heard about the counseling sessions a day or two later.
So you feel like Ms. Alexander wasn't on top of the situation, only none of this verbally things had been said?
I'm sorry, I
Well,
don't understand the question.
In other words, before this incident, this alleged incident, was Ms. Alexander coming to you and telling you she was having problems?
Not to the extent that occurred on September 7th, that there was some concerns about her work performance.
Just her work, though.
Yeah, they were all mostly work performance oriented, and that she was having more trouble communicating with her. That's about it. On September 7th and thereafter, I learned a whole bunch more.
The next witness I would call would be Ms. Gloria Alexander.
You swear the following testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Ms. Alexander, would you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Gloria Alexander, last name Alexander.
And who is your employer?
Nevada State Board of Cosmetology.
And what is your job title?
I'm office manager.
And as office manager for the State Board of Cosmetology, what are your duties?
I provide administrative support to the executive director, and I perform any special projects or duties that he assigned to me. And I'm also the supervisor of the administrative staff.
And so was Sandra Michelle Smith under your supervision while she was employed at the board?
Yes.
And what were her duties?
She worked as a waiter. She also mainly, she was an admin one, so she worked the front counter. She also worked in the testing department.
Okay. And can you please tell us about the events of the afternoon of September 7th, 2011, as related to Ms. Smith?
Okay, so I'll read my report.
You did prepare a report regarding the incident?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let's get it admitted. I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 2. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And I'm also showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 2. Do you recognize that? Do you have any objection to that being exhibited? Can you say for the record, Ms. Alexander, what Exhibit 2 is?
Exhibit 2 is the report that I gave to Mr. Vincent Jimno in regards to what happened on September 7th.
Okay. I would ask that Ms. Alexander's report be admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 2, and I believe Ms. Smith has said she has no objection.
So admitted.
So Ms. Smith, can you summarize for us what happened on September 7th, 2011?
Ms. Smith?
I'm sorry, Ms. Alexander.
On September 7, 2011, at approximately 3:20 p.m., Sandra Smith returned from her lunch break 30 minutes late. I asked her to come into my office, and I counseled her on her pattern of continuing to be late, returning from her breaks and lunch hour. Sandra admitted to being late, returning from lunch. I offered to help Sandra catch up on her backlog of files. After working on the files, I noticed that some of the files was as old as November of 2010. I stated to Sandra that this backlog of work was unacceptable because we were given 2 days of overtime in March of 2011 to catch up on the backlog of work. In March of 2011, Sandra assured me that she was up to date with her backlog of work. I stated this behavior was unacceptable, and if she and I ever got this far behind in the testing department again, I would recommend termination for both. After finishing the conversion of the files that I was working on at 4:50 p.m. on 9/7/2011, I placed the files on Sandra's desk. Sandra was prepared to leave for the day. As I was walking away, I heard parking lot, and I continued to walk away. Later, I was told by 2 people that Sandra threatened to meet me in the parking lot because she was upset with me and she wanted to finish this in the parking lot. Subsequently, 4 employees overheard the language, including but not limited to harmful threat against her immediate supervisor, such as "I will meet her in the parking lot and we can take care of this. I've been to jail and we'll go again." And that was all I reported.
Okay, so that's your memory regarding that. And can you confirm Mr. Jimnos testified today about some counseling that you gave to Ms. Smith after her probationary period? Do you have a memory of those same incidents?
Yes, I do. On August 4th, Sandra Smith was counseled by Deborah Blasco in regards to her lack of performance in putting the cash receipts into the cash, into the, what am I trying to say, into the register, cash register. And on August the 5th, counsel was given, and verbal warning was given to her because she came back 5 minutes late from lunch. August 18th, counsel was given a written warning on excessive sick leave, and that sick leave I discussed with Sandra, and she signed the statement of the summary of the sick leave that I had did for her. Her sick leave was from August 17th through August 19th. It had been an excessive amount of sick leave. So we discussed that, and she agreed with me, and signed. I have a signed statement here from her. September 7th, counsel and given verbal warning about being 30 minutes late from lunch again. September 8th, she phoned in absent for the day due to an emergency. Our hot water heater broke or something.
Okay. And so it sounds like all these counseling sessions are after her 6-month probationary period.
Yes, they're from August 4th through September 8th.
And so would you agree with Mr. Jimdo's assessment then, as her immediate supervisor, that her performance had declined?
Yes.
And can you also explain for the board what excessive sick leave means? Does that mean using more than you had on the books, or?
Yes, I believe, I'm not sure what Ms. Smith's, how many hours of sick leave she had left at the time of termination, but from February 1st, 2011 to August 19, 2011, she had 86.25 hours of sick leave. That was from August to September. And the total time off that she had from the work schedule, the total time off for the last 6 months had been 91 hours.
So she used more sick leave than what she had?
Right.
And so that would be the purpose of that counseling?
Right. And this was discussed with her and signed by her.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Alexander.
Did we admit that?
Yeah, we did admit Exhibit 2, didn't we? Yes. Okay. Thank you. I have no questions for Ms. Alexander, but I do reserve the right to redirect after his question.
Yes. Mrs. Alexander, on the date stating that you said I came in 30 minutes late from work, did you ask me when I came into your office what time I went to work and how late I was back from lunch?
No, I said on September 7th, you were 30 minutes late returning from your lunch break. I actually observed the time that you left for lunch that day and the time that you came back.
No, September 7th.
Yes.
Okay, that's the day that Kaisha was 30 minutes late from lunch. I told you, when you called me in your office, you said, what time did you go to lunch? And I told you, just like Vince, I told you what time, and I said I was 7 minutes late because of the construction that they were doing out here. And you said, okay. You never once reprimanded me about being late. We sat in your office and we had a conversation, and the conversation was not pertaining to me being late. So when I came out of your office, I had no reason to be upset. You
I
never
believe
scolded me. I never
your
had to
conversation was that I actually told you, Michelle, you left at 2 o'clock and you didn't come back till like 3:20. I said you were 30 minutes late. You said to me, yes, I was. I had a doctor's appointment.
That's not so, and that's here
That
again.
is my testimony. This is what you
Right.
told me.
Okay, well, my testimony is that's not what I told you. Okay, and then again, on your statement, you said, or you added what other people told you. I thought you said, I told you I've been to jail. That's not what you were saying?
No,
Okay.
that's what was reported to me.
Okay, and you said that I was also questioned on August 4th and August 5th?
August 4th, you were counseled by Debbie about putting the money in the cash register and also writing your initials on the bottom of the the money order so that we would know who handled that transaction.
Okay. Wasn't the conversation between me and Debbie was about putting more than one notification on there about, like, putting the names of the person that was coming to get their license on their money order? Or not just it was renewals, or not just their hair design license or their cosmetology license?
It could have been, she probably counseled you on all of it because
But no.
none of those things was being done.
But did I sign anything? Because Debbie came out front. Did I sign anything from the 4th to 5th to 6th of any of those counseling sessions?
No, you did not. These are just my notes. These are my notes that I talked to you
Okay,
on
so
these
how do
days.
we know-
So the only one signed thing that I have for you is your excessive sick leave. That
Okay.
was signed by you and I did this. We had a session where I counseled you on this. You admitted to this. The other stuff, like calling in sick, that can be proven by payroll that you called in that you had your hot water heater had a problem. And then I did talk to you about the 30 minutes of being late coming back from lunch. You told me you had a doctor's appointment, and I said to you, why didn't you make me aware of it before you left? And you didn't. You left at like 2:30 and didn't come back till you were 30 minutes late returning
So
back.
you just said I left at 2 o'clock, but that wasn't the
I
day of the
don't
doctor's
have the
appointment.
exact time
I know.
down here, but I did note it in my book.
I'm just saying you just said that I went to lunch at 2 o'clock, so could it be a mistake that you don't
I
remember?
think we need to make sure that we've got a question here, and I believe she's already answered your question in the way she's going to answer it. She's answered it several the same.
It looks like my attorney didn't show up today, and I'm really trying to get the point across that this is not a question. I'm just trying to tell you something because I'm not an attorney, and I just wish you would take the time to listen to me for 1 second. That all this is hearsay.
Well, we will
This
get
is
to
Okay,
hear.
I have no further questions for
You'll have, once council puts on all her witnesses, you can put on whatever witnesses you have and make whatever statements you want. That'll be your time to put forth your case.
Ms. Alexander, you referred to your notes regarding Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Is that your practice to keep notes of times that you need to counsel your employee supervise?
Yes, I keep a booklet on all of my employees, times that they're late, if I counsel them about anything, whether it's not always a written counseling session where I get them to sign something, but on the date that I do counsel them, I do write it down in my book. I have a book that says employees counseling sessions.
Okay. So every time, your habit is every time you call an employee into your office to talk to them about something, being late from a break, not doing something appropriately, you make sure that you note that in your book.
Yes.
And then I would presume that when it's time to do the person's employee evaluation, performance evaluation, you would pull your book out and see what you counseled them about in the preceding period.
Right.
And so that book helps you remember all the conversations you've had, and maybe also does it help you determine maybe what you need to work on with different people.
Correct.
So there would be notes in your book about more than just Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have any
Yes.
initial questions based on
Yes.
those questions?
Yes. Did you ever hear me threaten you?
No.
Do you believe that I threatened you? Would you believe that I would actually say that to you or about you?
Well, I would hope that you wouldn't, but I find it hard to believe that 4 other employees said that you did, and that wasn't the first time that had been reported to me. It was just the first time that, because the employees felt threatened, that I felt that I needed to address the issue at the time.
How much do you weigh?
240
How
pounds.
tall are you?
5'6".
Okay, I'm 5'4", and I weigh 145. I wouldn't threaten you. Do you think that I would? Okay. Better question. Let's take a deep breath. I got this job. When I came to this job, did I not tell you that I would do this job as I was doing it unto the Lord and do everything I was supposed to do?
Yes, you did. Did I not require that of you?
But do you think that I fell short of that? Because go ahead, I'm sorry. Question.
Yes, in the last, from June on, yes, I do.
Okay, and why do you think I fell short of that? What did I not do?
Number one, the returning to work on time and taking your breaks on time and returning on time, that was one. And the other is just, I noticed that a lot of time you just was not working, Michelle. And then remember, I had a list for you and Anaya that we went through what you were supposed to be doing and what she was supposed to be doing. I also had a list of what you needed to learn to perform your job. And I went through that list with you and asked you, do you know how to do this? You tell me yes or no. If you did not know how to do it, I told Anaya she needs to be trained on this by our next counseling session. I think we had 3. By our next counseling session, I need to know that you know how to do these things, Michelle. We had 3 counseling sessions, and at the end of those counseling sessions, you said that you knew how to do all the things that was required of you. At the end of that counseling session, I also had assigned job duties to you and to Anaya, which I have a list of your job duties. They were not being performed. One of the things that we were really backlogged on was like entering the enrollments into the computer. The other one that we had a problem was sending out the pass and fail notice. Those was all your jobs. And also I was helping you with your conversion of files. That was your job that I was trying to help you catch up with. I have no idea where the hostility came from when it come between me and you. I still don't know. I would still like to know.
Am I hostile? This is a question to her. When did you notice hostility me towards you?
When I got the reports, like I say, from the employees more than once.
Oh, well, no, it sounded like you, that question, that statement you just made, it sounded like I was hostile towards you by your, straight to you.
No, I've never heard you say anything hostile to me, but I do know that there were times that you just preferred not to talk to me or discuss things with me. I think I even called you into my office a couple of times and asked you directly, do you have a problem with me? Do you remember that?
And what did I say?
You said no. So, but then you said no, but then I kept getting all this information from the other employees, which, like I said, was very confusing for me, for them to tell me that you were saying these things about me and you didn't like me, and I'm going, why? What happened? And that's when I called you in and you said no, and so.
I said no, because none of that was true. So I don't, as a supervisor, wouldn't you call us all in to see what was going on? We never had the chance to meet together.
You mean all the people?
All the people who were telling you that I said things. And my thing is, you never gave me a fair chance. Nobody here gave me a fair chance. And I'm asking this question.
Okay. Well, like I said, the first time that it was told to me, it was by Tim. I chose to ignore it because I knew that it was an offense that could possibly cost you your job and mine too for not reporting it. So the first time I heard it, I chose not to say anything at all about it. The second time it was alleged that this is what happened. It was not only me that was threatened, that they felt you threatened, but they felt themselves. The workers within the office felt threatened. That's why I had to report it to Mr. Jimno.
Okay, were you aware?
Because I was not around when you made these threats.
Okay, were you aware of the training that I was provided by Anaya?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, weren't you guys planning on sending me to Reno because you knew Anaya wasn't giving me the proper training that I was supposed to get here in Vegas?
That was going to be your last training session that I believe was from September 30th to 10/1. Those things were supposed to be completed by then. I brought you and Anaya into my office. You both stated that part had been taken care of, that you now knew your job and you were capable of doing it.
Didn't Anaya tell you?
That was prior to.
No, this was our last meeting. Didn't Anaya tell you, oh, Gloria, my bad, I didn't get to teach her the login on the computer for testing, for the written test? the very last meeting we had. And she said, we'll go out and do it now.
Right, that was the only thing of that list of work that you were supposed to learn that you and her both said that you had not learned. And to teach you how to log in on the computer for the testing, it was a simple thing. So
Yep.
she said that she could go out and do it right then.
I think we're kind of just going back and forth at each other here. And I'm getting the same answers over on the same questions. I'm not quite sure how to word this we're pretty much aware of the performance and how it was going, and I'm not sure if this was a counseling session that you're talking about.
That we're discussing right now. Yes, it was a counseling session of her learning her job duties that included herself and Anaya.
I thought
Can
they
we
would be.
move on to something else? I mean, because I think she's answered that same question a couple of times.
We can move on.
Do you have any more questions for Ms. Alexander?
No.
Does the board have questions for Ms. Alexander? I do.
Is it your policy to make other employees aware that you're counseling anyone?
Not unless they included in the counseling session, no.
So her opening remark about somebody else being late the same day, would she be notified that someone else was counseled, or would that just be between you and the employees you counsel?
That would be between me and the employee that I counseled, and the other employee was not an employee; she was a temp, and she had time off for that day for a doctor's appointment.
And
Can I say something? Dan? She went
You
to...
can ask her questions based on these questions when they're done.
Okay.
So just remember it and then that'll be
Okay.
your time to ask.
And that was just wanted to clarify that she doesn't necessarily need to know if somebody else was being counseled for the same tardiness, lateness, whatever the situation is, right? Okay, that's right.
I can ask.
Any other questions from the board? Now you can ask.
Okay. The day that you said Kaisha had an appointment for the doctor, the day that I was allegedly late 30 minutes coming back from lunch, Kaisha didn't go to Mario's Westside Market to get lunch for everybody in the office except me that day.
I don't know, Michelle. That was September 7th.
But everything else about September 7th, we seem to remember, was not Kaisha going to Mario's Market for everybody. How I know she was late because I had to wait till she came back to take my break. So
I do remember Kaisha, and I can confirm this by getting her records from Manpower. I do know that sometime during that week she had a doctor's appointment, which she was like 30 minutes late.
it wasn't that day. But
And as far as the lunch for Mario, I don't know.
so you don't remember her bringing everybody lunch back from Mario's in the office except me, not even asking me? It was just you and everybody else in the office. You don't remember Kaisha?
I
having-
remember her going to get lunch. I can't tell you that it was
But you don't
this
remember-
specific day. I do. You're right. There were a day that she went and got lunch for everybody. Yes, but I can't testify and swear that it was this day.
But I can't, because it's not my turn. So, right?
Can I ask a question, Brian? Sure. Where did the employees clock in and out?
No, they do not.
I have no further questions for Ms. Alexander. I believe Ms. Alexander may need to go home because she's not well. I don't know if you have any objection, Ms. Smith, for a meeting. Do you think you'll need to call Ms. Alexander later?
I'm sure I will.
Okay. Okay, thank you. My next witness would be Ms. Griego. I was thinking next to Gloria.
that to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Ms. Griego, would you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Nadine Griego, last name Griego,
And who is your employer?
Nevada Board of Cosmetology.
What is your job title?
Management Analyst 1.
And as Management Analyst 1 for the State Board of Cosmetology, what are your duties?
Database administration, management reports, backing up office manager as well as the executive director on any kind of reporting or staffing needs or coverage.
And did you work in the same area of the office as Ms. Smith prior to her termination?
Yes.
Can you please, actually, I'd like to show you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 3. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
That is my statement.
And did you prepare that for Mr. Jimno during his investigation?
Yes.
And does that appear to be a true and correct copy of the statement that you provided?
Yes.
Do you have any objection to State's Exhibit 3 being admitted? I would ask that State's Exhibit 3 be admitted into evidence.
So admitted.
Ms. Griego, can you tell us about the events on the afternoon of September 7th regarding Ms. Smith?
Well, it was about near the end of the day, I would say 4:45, so it was, the workday was almost ending. The staff works at 5, I was working 5:30. During that time, I was talking with another employee, Keisha and Anaya, and Gloria came back and put some files on Michelle's desk. Anaya started laughing, and I looked at Kiki and kind of looking at like, you kind of giggle like, whoa, what happened? And Gloria walked away, and apparently, I guess the files were slipping. I didn't see them, but apparently they were slipping, so Anaya had laughed, and we all kind of giggled and laughed about it. When Gloria walked away, all I heard is Michelle kind of, saying something, mumbling something. I couldn't hear it all, but the only part that I heard was just about we can meet in the parking lot, and that's when I knew it was kind of tense, so I just went back to work and kept quiet after that.
And when you say Michelle, you mean Sandra Michelle?
Sandra
Smith?
Michelle, yes, sorry.
I just want to make sure
Sure,
we're
sure.
clear. And so then what did you do? You went back to work?
Yeah, and the staff was getting ready to leave. Like I said, it was within 10 minutes when they were getting off. I stayed till 5:30. That was my schedule. And the staff pretty much just closed down and left, and that's all I saw from there.
Okay. And did you experience a prior incident or two of resentment from Ms. Smith regarding Ms. Alexander?
Yeah, there just seemed to be a growing hostility in certain, comments and certain, reactions. I just kind of noticed it more in the last few months. We were doing a lot of changes where we were being held accountable for being backlogged. So a lot of our work was being scrutinized, and a lot of employees were being held, accountable for producing the right level of, applications and your teamwork skills and everything. So.
Can you tell us about the incident in the general staff meeting where Ms. Alexander addressed an issue and she didn't single out Ms. Smith, but it seemed like Ms. Smith maybe got upset about that?
Yeah, there had been problems where certain staff members were coming late from their lunches. I know with Gloria, we work a lot on our staff meetings together, and in particular, Gloria had noticed her coming in late. So when we did our next staff meeting, we discussed topics that we're going to go over. That was one of them. And rather than single her out, I know we said we're just going to generally address it to everyone. We're a team. We want to produce as a team. So when we had our staff meeting, we addressed, not only the issues of coming late for lunch, making doctor's appointments in a courteous manner, just different issues that I do know Gloria, as supervisor, felt, Sandra Michelle wasn't adhering to. So in the staff meeting, we had that discussion. We kept it general, and pretty much afterwards, she, felt that it was directed towards her. And, that's, we're all a team, so we're trying to emphasize the teamwork, whether one person's falling behind, the whole team is falling behind kind of mentality, but there just seemed to be resentment there that kept building.
And did you hear Ms. Smith refer to Gloria as being two-faced?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions for Ms. Griego at this time.
Yes. You heard me stating that Gloria was two-faced?
Yes.
To you?
No, to another staff member.
Who did I say that to?
That was at the time when we were walking outside, when we were on the same schedule. That was to Roxanne.
And I told her that Gloria was two-faced.
Yeah, we were walking out. It was about that same day the staff meeting was done, when you felt that, well, at least in my opinion, you felt that she was singling you out And then when we got to when we got to the parking lot and we were all leaving, and you started talking to her about the staff meeting, you know it was directed towards you, and Gloria's being two-faced, and we just kept
So
walking.
I said
our
that to
desk.
Roxanne, or I said it to
To
you and
Roxanne.
Roxanne?
To Roxanne. I was
how-
walking to my
so how
desk,
do
so
you
as
know
we're
what I
walking
said?
out together,
Sorry.
you can still hear conversations as you're walking this way and that way. And I heard that, and I kept walking.
Do you know what day you heard that on?
That particular day, we'd have to get our staffing reports to see when we had our meetings, but it's during one of our staff meetings that we've always had on a Friday morning.
During one of the staff meetings?
No,
Or
the
while
same
to
day,
block?
the day. The day that, the particular day that you're asking about would be a day that we did on a Friday staff meeting.
Okay, on the day that this alleged incident happened, when Gloria slammed the files on my desk, or you guys say allegedly, but we all know she slammed the files on my desk. Were you at your desk at that time?
I was.
So where was Kaisha?
She was standing next to my desk.
She was sitting in your chair, wasn't she?
No, I was sitting in my chair. She was standing in my cubicle area, the open way right there. She was standing there.
Okay. No further questions.
I did have one question. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell the board about your experience working with Ms. Smith? You gave us some general statements, but is there anything else that you wanted to share?
I mean, no, just whatever's in my statements. That's pretty much. There's nothing more to add.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grego. I would call, the next witness would be Anaya Powell.
Swear the following testimony you're about to give to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Ms. Powell, please take a seat. Would you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Anaya Powell, Powell.
Can you spell your first name too, just in case?
Anniya.
Thank you. And who is your employer?
Nevada State Board of Cosmetology.
And what is your job title?
Testing coordinator.
As testing coordinator for the State Board of Cosmetology, what are your duties?
I am responsible for scheduling exams, administering exams, password, school hours.
And did Ms. Smith work with you in the testing department prior to her termination?
Yes.
I am showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 5. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
This is the letter that I wrote to Vance about, pretty much what happened.
On September
Okay.
7th? And does that also include some of your observations about Ms. Smith and her performance? Ms. Smith, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 5. Do you have any objection to this being admitted into evidence? I would ask that State's Exhibit 5 be admitted.
So admitted.
Can Ms. Powell, can you please tell us about the events of the afternoon of September 7th as related to Ms. Smith?
Pretty much, it was a pretty typical day. It was later in the evening, almost close to closing. Gloria came with a stack of files to put on Sandra's desk. And as she was putting, they were a pretty big stack. As she was putting them on the desk, some of them started slipping. So she kind of put them down kind of hard, So, she looked, I laughed, Nadine laughed, Tracy laughed. We laughed at the fact that they almost hit the floor. After she had walked away, Sandra I'm not sure if she thought that we were laughing at her or if, what the case may be. So then she started basically mumbling, I don't need this mess, this is ridiculous, I ain't got time for this, da-da-da. So I asked her, I'm like, what are you talking about? And she was like, oh, go on tonight, I ain't got time for all this, go on and go. So I'm like, okay. So I finished gathering my stuff up, because it's now time to go home. I walked past Gloria's office, I told her, I was like, she is upset about something, I don't know what, I don't know about who, but I'm leaving. And I left.
And so what happened on September 8th?
September 8th, she didn't come in. I think I got my dates wrong on that one. But September 8th, I came in the office. Actually, she had sent a text saying that she wouldn't be in. Her water heater had broke. So when I came in the office, you know, I asked Gloria, I'm like, was everything okay, you know, after I left, you know, and Gloria said that the other ones that still stayed behind after I had left had told her that Sandra was making those remarks towards Gloria, that she would meet her in the parking lot. She'd been to jail before. She ain't got no problem going back, and da-da-da. So I was just like, okay.
And so you told Ms. Alexander you felt threatened by what Ms. Smith had said?
Yeah, well, you know, when I was leaving, I'm like, because I don't know who she's referring to is, you know, meeting them in the parking lot or blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go because I had no conflict with her. But at the same time, I don't know who she's referring that to until the next day when I went in.
Can you give the board a summary of your assessment of Ms. Smith's performance?
Basically, you know, like I noted in the statement, I'm going to be honest with you, she would sometimes be on task, sometimes not. It kind of seemed like she picked and chose what she wanted to do. I know coming in to when she was first hired, it was kind of like a hard time for all of us because we were trying to do backlog and then trying to get her trained, and then she had a couple family things going on with her situation. So by the time it kind of was like a settled thing and having to get back in a group, Gloria was like, you got to get her trained. You got to get her trained. It's time to get up to this probation. You got to get her trained. So, you know, trying to get her trained on different things. She, you know, would take notes at some point. Other points she wouldn't. She would kind of like forget things to do, you know, going around asking, you know, different people, you know, how to do this, how to do that. Everybody was like, okay, you know, we told her how to do this, we told her how to do that. You know, she's got to, you know, take better notes. She's got to pay attention. She's got to pretty much, you know, get it together at this point, because it's at that point it's hurting everybody, just what she's like. And like the things that she was assigned to do, if she didn't do them, that kind of stopped me from finishing what I needed to do as far as the testing department. So it's like I had to wait on her to finish what I needed to do. And then at that point, you know, now I got to answer to Gloria as to why it's not done.
And I think on the end of August 2011, you went on vacation.
Yes.
And so you gave some instructions to Ms. Smith for some work that needed to be done while you were gone.
Yes.
And what happened with that?
When I returned, only probably like 25% of it was done.
And did you ask her about that?
I didn't ask her about it. I went to Gloria and was like, you know, it's still here. You know, what happened? Was it busy? Was it, you know, then Gloria came out and was like, it's not done. So then, you know, Gloria took a stack. She was like, give me what needs to be done. So she, you know, gave her a box, you know, this, you know, basically this is what you need to do. This is what you need to have done.
So you let Gloria know that the work hadn't been finished as it should have been.
Yeah, because it should have been done.
And so then she took over from there. What would happen next? Is there anything else that you want to tell the board about Ms. Smith and the threats that you heard? I have no further questions for Ms. Powell.
Yeah. Anaya, what were the temps hired for?
The temps were hired for basically just helping out renewal, backlogging, scanning, uploading, just all the old stuff that needed to be finished and completed.
And when you came back to work, what was not done?
The scanning, uploading, and filing, converting and filing.
What the temps were supposed to be doing, right?
Right.
So I could complete what I had to do.
Well, actually, you were in charge of that. That's why I sent the email. You were in charge of making sure that not only them, but you also were part of that process of getting it done. Not just them. They were put there to help out, but not to actually complete the process.
So is it your statement that I could do the front desk, do my work, and why am I the only support staff that's already hired that has to help the temps with the backlog when I'm working front desk and when I'm doing my work?
Yeah.
Why am I'm the only one that's helping with the backlog? Was that it?
What do you mean the only one helping?
Was I the only full-time employee that was helping with the backlog?
For the testing department, yes. The backlog was for the testing department. It wasn't for renewal or any other department.
Okay, but did we not help the renewal department get caught up, the testing department? Didn't we have sections where everybody were helping everyone?
Yeah, but at this point with our department, it was Gloria assigned it to where that's the only thing we did. Me and you were out of the loop of the renewal backup. Now it was focused on keeping the testing department caught up.
Right. And when you were here, were you helping with the backlogs?
Yes.
As well as doing all your work and my work? Because you say I didn't do my work, right?
Yep.
So you did all that?
Every day.
All my work, every day?
Not all your work, but work that you should have had done in order for me to get to my next step.
That you
of finishing
trained me
my
to
work.
do. Is
Correct.
it not that when you, the day that you came into work, that you were 2 hours late stuck on the highway, and I called you and I said, Anaya, I need the code to get into the written test statement. And you kept giving me the wrong code, right? Am I correct?
You're
Okay.
correct.
So I called myself because I hadn't yet been trained to how to get into that because you had never trained me on that. Is that
You
correct?
were never trained on that? That's not correct.
I was trained how to do the written
Yes.
input with my code and everything.
With your code and everything.
That's not true.
What you're
But-
saying is not true.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you, but I just
Mhm.
want to know that 2 hours that you were late, and when you came in and found out that I had worked it out, called and got my own number, you were not upset that day, and that's the day that these statements were wrote, like 2 weeks later,
What do you mean?
because I pretty much trained myself.
Oh, trust me, I was not upset about that.
Well, why would you keep giving me the wrong password so I can get in it?
It was severely flooding that day. I'm on the phone, and yeah, if I'm trying to pay attention to traffic and give you a code, yeah,
No,
my
you were
mistake.
stuck in traffic. You weren't moving. That's what.
Well,
is that not what you said to us? I'm asking a question.
Well, it's
Yeah,
stuck
you
in
are,
traffic.
but
I'm
I
still in
think
the
it's
move.
kind of getting away from what you're doing,
Well, I'm trying
you're
to-
actually doing here.
I'm trying to set up why all these things are coming up at once because of the day that everybody starts saying I threatened Gloria is when I proved myself. That's what I'm saying. When I could do it without her help. I guess I'll get a chance to say it all in the closing statement. Is that when I say it?
Yeah, and yeah. you can
Okay,
put
well,
on
I have
your
no
case, but if
further
you have-
questions for you, Lanaya.
I just have one question for Ms. Powell. Can you please refer to your statement that was prepared on September 21st? I think on the first page, there's a quote of what you heard Ms. Smith say in response to Ms. Alexander leaving the files on the desk. Can you just state that for the record for the board?
After Gloria walked off, Sandra began to mumble to herself and swiftly starting to clean up her desk because it was the end of the workday. She appeared to be upset, saying, "I don't have time for this. It don't make me no never mind. We can meet in the parking lot and take care of this." I took that as a threat. I asked her, "Girl, what the hell are you talking about?" Which I normally did. She told me, Anaya, don't play with me. Her tone was angry, and I could tell she was upset about something. I figured to mean that she could meet me in the parking lot, and that upset me. I turned around and looked at Tracy and Nadine, and I asked them, "What is she talking about?" She kept mumbling. I said, "Let me leave before things get out of hand."
Thank you. Do you have any questions for her about
Yes.
that?
Yes, because before you said, so if I'm mumbling, how do you guys know what I'm saying? Everybody's saying I'm mumbling. If I'm mumbling, how do you know
Mumbling,
what
I
I'm
don't mean
saying?
like, I mean, your back was turned. You were, or maybe mumbling wasn't a good word, but you were speaking, should I say.
And you asked me, girl, what the hell are you talking about? And I'm 46 years old, and I told you what?
It don't make me none, never mind. We can meet in the parking lot and take care of this. I took the Jeep. Basically, that's it.
Okay. No further questions.
Do you have any questions?
The next witness I would call would be Ms. Spence, so you're excused for now, Ms. Powell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Spence, and S-P-E-N-C-E.
And who is your employer?
Nevada State Board of Cosmetology.
And what is your job title?
Administrative Assistant 1.
And as an administrative assistant one for the State Board of Cosmetology, what are your duties?
I'm managing incoming calls and deal with licensing on a day-to-day basis.
And did you work in the same area of the office as Ms. Smith prior to her termination?
Yes.
Okay, I am showing you what has been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 4. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 4. Do you have any objections that being admitted into evidence? What is Exhibit 4 for the record?
It's a statement, basically, of what I heard Sandra say to Gloria.
Thank you. I would ask that State's Exhibit 4 be admitted into evidence. Are you having a hard time hearing Ms. Spence?
Well, the thing is, I'm okay, but when you question, we need to have it so I'm facing Ms. Smith because her back's to me and I'm the one who needs to sit in front.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Thank you. A little bit, at least.
Can you please tell us about the events of the afternoon of September 7th as related to Ms. Smith?
While I was sitting in my cubicle, Sandra's cubicle sits in front of mine, and it was about 4:50, and I just heard her say, she stood up and said, did you see that? And I said, what? And she just then said to me, we can take this in the parking lot. I've been to jail once. I'll go again.
And she was saying that to Ms. Alexander?
She actually, as Gloria was leaving, she was saying it.
Okay. And so how did you feel after you heard those comments?
Well, the thing that alarmed me is she always seemed to be really nice. It kind of startled me. It shocked me. It really did, because I never expected Sandra to say anything like that.
And did you say anything to her?
As we're leaving the building, we're walking to the parking instructor. She was right beside me, and she kept saying it. And I said, don't say that. Because it really startled me, her saying that. She just kept saying it. And I'm like, don't say that.
Did you tell her it scared you?
I just said, don't say that, Sandra. Don't say that. That's what I said.
I have no further questions for Ms. Spence. Smith?
Yes, I do. Okay. What exhibit was it? I'm sorry. Tracy Spence?
Exhibit 4.
Exhibit 4. Did it not say that you said to me, you are scaring me? What you wrote to Gloria Alexander and Vince Jim?
Yes.
Well, didn't you just tell her that you didn't?
I didn't
you
say
wasn't
that.
scared?
No, I didn't say that.
She
I didn't-
just,
I
she
didn't
just
say I
said
wasn't
that
scared.
you asked her.
Well, what the statement says is that I said to her, meaning you, Ms. Spence, said, don't say that, you were scaring me, but she continued.
Right.
Okay, how tall are you?
5'11".
And how much do you weigh?
Why does that matter?
Because I want to know how I can scare you.
Okay, for Sandra, for you to make a comment like that in the workplace, when you say to me or to anyone,
I thought I said.
wait, may I finish?
Yes, you may. Yes, you may.
You said we can take this in the parking lot. I've been to jail once. I had never known that you had been to jail. And two, for you to threaten your, that was scary to me. I'd never heard that, and I've been working in corporate America 27 years. I've never heard that. That really frightened me,
You're right.
Sandra.
You're right. You've never heard it because I've never said it. You're so correct. I've never said that. And I never said it to you. And you were a temp at this time. Is that correct?
Yes, Sandra.
Okay. So at 5 o'clock, what does the temps do? At 5 o'clock, what does the temps do?
I don't know. What
At-
did they do?
You guys leave. At
Okay.
5 o'clock, we have to stay and finish. I was an employee. We have to stay and close the register and everything. I never walked down with you. So how could I walk down with you that day and say this?
Sandra, we all left at the same time, and it was 4:50 p.m. We all left at the same time. It was 4:50 when you made the statement. When we walked down, it was 5. We all walked down at the same time. And I believe it was Naya and someone else that were getting in their car, and they saw me walk away from you because it frightened me that much you saying something like that. You were in anger that day. You were really in a fit of
That
anger.
day or at the end of the day? And that, how do you know what I'm feeling?
Okay. Your reactions showed it all. And it was pretty
My
frightening.
reactions to what?
No.
Why? So why would I say that?
I don't know. Why would you say it?
I didn't say it. Like you said 3 times, but you've never heard that in corporate America. You never heard that
Okay.
because I never said it. But one thing I wanted to ask you. Your cubicle sits right behind mine. You said it was 4:50 and we all walked out together that day.
No, I said it was 4:50. When you said it, we walked out at 5.
And we all walked out together. Okay? And Anaya just said that you guys stayed behind to tell Miss Alexander what went on. Which is,
Sandra, I have no reason to lie. I hardly know you. I have no reason to lie on what you would say. I have no reason to lie. And the thing that really startled me is I thought I knew you. It startled me.
Do you have any other questions?
no, I don't have any further questions.
Ms. Spence, just to clarify, I think what you said was that in your 27 years working in corporate America prior to this incident, you never heard anything like that.
Never.
So, on that day, you're testifying that you did hear the threats made.
Absolutely.
And so that's why it was so startling, because you never
Absolutely.
heard that
I've
before.
never heard anything like that. And when she
Until
said
that day.
something about going to jail, it was like, oh my God, who am I working with?
Thank you.
Another question for you. I told you I went to jail once and I'll go again.
You said, quote, I've been to jail once and will go back again.
Like jail as in prison? Why would I want to go to jail? Like jail as in prison or just jail?
It's clear, Sandra, what you said. I don't have to make it up. You
Anymore.
said,
Anymore,
I
right? Is
will
that
have
correct?
been
You don't have to
jail
make it up
once.
anymore?
I have
Either
been to jail
answer
once.
questions specifically.
Okay.
I will go back again. That's exactly what you said.
I have no further questions for Ms. Spence, or the board does. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Spence.
I have no further witnesses, and so I would rest my case, and I would like to make a closing statement. I'm not sure whether you now it's your turn.
Okay.
You can make an opening statement, you can call witnesses.
Well, my opening statement would be that everybody came in here with their letters in hand. Everybody, every single one of the witnesses. Their testimony was all pretty much the same. It's like it was collaborated. And as far as finding things to say that I wasn't doing my job properly, we could pull the files. We have to initial everything we do. I was late coming back from lunch on the day in question, but 7 to 8 minutes, I told that to Vince. And when he called me in and asked me about this, I was at a loss. I'm like, what incident? I didn't know what he was talking about. Really, I didn't, because I never said I was going to do harm to Gloria. So, the temps were leaving. We were finishing up our work, and I don't recall if Anaya left or not. I really don't recall, because I don't remember any hostility going on that day whatsoever. It didn't happen as far as I'm concerned, because I never said I went to jail and I'll go back. I'm scared of jail. I don't want to go to jail. My thing is, this Gloria put her foot on the line for this job for me, and I greatly appreciate that. I'm a Christian. I have a 15-year-old daughter to raise. I'm 46 years old, older than all those girls out there. And maybe because I am in the corner doing my own thing, my own work, and I'm not out there all laughing and hooping and hollering and laughing with them and doing what they do, maybe it does seem like I'm belonging to them. But I'm doing my work. I've always done my work. When I first started, I had a brother-in-law and an uncle to die in the same week. I didn't miss a day of work. I did not miss a day of work. When I got sick, I had the sick time or the vacation time, and addressed to me by my supervisor that I could use that time to be off work. So, being self-employed all my life, okay, I figured I could use this time. I have it. So I used the time while I was sick, and I don't understand where all this is coming from, but if you guys could just sit down and read the questions, it sounds so collaborated, and a team player is what I am. That might make me fall back a day or two. I've only been here 10 months. Anaya's been here 6 years. So yes, what she can do in an hour or two by me training myself, it might take me 6 hours to do it. Because I've been here 10 months and she's been here 6 years. It's a big difference. So when they was talking about the training, I didn't get trained. I have no reason to lie. I didn't get trained. I told my family, I told Gloria, thank you, thank you, thank you, because this is going to be my retirement position, because I had never put anything in for retirement, being self-employed, so I need this job. So why would I do threats or bodily harm or any of that to anyone? And I was so baffled when Jim asked me that, when Vince asked me that. He should have been able to see the response to me. I was like, never would I do that. So, yeah, I just didn't understand it when he put me on paid temporary leave, and he told me, well, it's on my dime. I said, yeah, but it makes me look guilty. You know, I didn't do this. You know, you're taking these people's word, and I didn't do it. And I know it sounds bad, but if you want a person gone, this is a right to work state. You know, do a paper trail. Give me for something that I did. Don't give me for, you say you put me on leave for insubordination. And then you add all this other stuff to my personnel file after I'm gone. Things were added to my personnel file on September 22nd. There was more hearsay. Nothing that was concrete evidence, because if we go back into that file room and pull those files, I guarantee you see my initials on 30% of those things coming over the counter, and I'm in testing. But when Amber is at that desk by herself and swamped, I would be less than a team player if I didn't get up and help her and get back to my work after we get the line down. Roxanne was the only one doing licensing at the time, so we were really in the backlog of that, and the licensing were being the only reason Roxanne was doing the license, because at that time Anaya was under investigations for licensing being missing. So of course I can see why she wanted me to get away, because I'm in the testing area with her, and if I see something that's not right and that's going to make me lose my job, then I'm going to tell it. So she had 4 reasons to write. Her testimony was against me was longer than anybody's, 3 pages, and it's not because we work so well together. It's because now that I know my job, I can see what she's doing. Gloria and Vince, they can only go by what she said, because they don't know how to come in there and get in that computer and see what I've done or see what she's doing. They have to take Anaya's word for it, because she's been here 6 years. And I guess I'm the closest thing to knowing what she's doing. So that's my opening statement. And
unemployment.
Oh, yes, thank you. And I was granted my unemployment, because the unemployment said that what Jim sent in, he told him about, they sent me a paper saying that it was not enough for me. He didn't supply them enough evidence for me not to get unemployment. So they okayed my unemployment. I am receiving that. But I don't know why they would give me unemployment and tell me that he had no reason for termination, but that's what I have to say about my opening statement. And do I go directly to closing?
Yeah, do you have any, do you have any witnesses called? Do you have any
call.
other documents that you want the board to see?
Well, you guys,
Any other evidence?
you guys know that I'm getting unemployment, right? That shows through the state, right? Is that correct, Dan?
It's been appealed, Senator.
Okay, but still. Okay.
It's not been decided that they will.
No, it's not appealed. They're paying me.
No, I appealed it. I just sent the documents in.
But they're already paying me.
So I may pay you. I have
Okay,
That's not
okay.
decided.
You'll understand all.
You understand that I am getting unemployment? Okay, I just want to be sure. And in closing, all I have to say is that me being the Christian person who I am, and knowing I have a 15-year-old daughter, I'm a single parent, I wouldn't put my life on the line like that. I've known Gloria all of my life. Gloria was my sister-in-law at one time. So, I think what happened is Kaisha Davis went and told Gloria a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know if they're related in some way. I'm not sure. I didn't do an investigation. But that's when it started. That's when everything all started, is when Kaisha came in and telling Gloria different things. I would see her coming out the office, and I would notice Gloria being a little distant. And she did slam the fouls, but that didn't bother me because she has all of us and Vince on her back. So that didn't bother me. I mean, she slammed the fouls down. And that's why Anaya and them tried to make it seem like, no, she walked in and she bammed them down on my desk. She's my supervisor. I have to accept that. I have to accept that. But in my closing, I know that I didn't threaten you. And I think deep down in your heart, you know I didn't threaten you. And however it goes here today, I will never stop loving you. And I appreciate the chance that you gave me, like I told you. But in the end, whatever you guys decide, it's your decision. But I was always a team player, always did my job. And I don't know what else to say because evidently it's all summed up and collaborated. But thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me this date. And I appreciate it.
Yeah. Is this the time to do this?
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like she's her only witness. So yes,
Yeah.
you can question her. I don't have any questions for her, just for the record. I don't have questions for her.
Okay. I do have a couple questions. Ms. Smith, have you ever been in jail?
I've been arrested, but I've never been in jail. I never made it. I got bailed out and no charges were filed.
My other question was concerning knowing your job. And you have been a raider for us in the past, am I correct?
Yes.
How many years?
3 years.
3 years?
Yes.
Do you know that when you're raiding, you don't take a cell phone in to the testing rooms?
Well, we take our purses in there.
But I noticed too that it was documented that you had been, evidently there were several calls.
Well, it was documented that there was cell phone usage, but they never said it was me. But she had to put it on their sync because it wasn't me on the cell phone. It was Sandra Hayes. It wasn't me. But she had to document it because she told me about it. She's a raider. She's just a raider, yes.
Okay.
And I guess that happened in May of last year, before I was even up. The May prior to me becoming an employee, I think, from what I heard.
You have made the statement that you were not trained.
Right.
And whose fault do you think that is?
Whoever was supposed to train me. Like Anaya would train me on certain things in the front counter. And when Anaya said that I did go ask questions, that's because I hadn't been trained. So I would say, well, just show me how to do this. I'm catching up. I don't know. I'm getting up to par. So just tell me and I can do it. Because I'm looking at the computer here now and I figured things out. So just tell me. I don't have to wait for training and I can do it. Because the only thing that Anaya has ever trained me on, they started training me in the middle. Because first the applications come across the desk. And then when they get to testing, we put in what we need to put in. So I got started training in the middle. And then when it was time for me to get trained on the front desk, I just had to follow people, just like a puppy dog. I didn't mind. I was learning. So I did that. But there was no one said person to train me on the front desk, on licensing, none of that. We didn't even get to do licensing for me because only Roxanne was doing the licensing at that time because it was being under investigation, so only one person could do the license at that time. So I never got trained on licensing.
Questions?
I have questions. You indicated that you were self-employed
Yes, I owned a beauty salon before.
and you had employees working for you?
Yes,
And they were employees or subcontractors?
subcontractors.
So the rating that you were doing, you stated you were doing that 2 to 3 years
Yes.
before. That was also subcontracted? I'm not quite sure how that worked.
That's here through the board,
So
state
you
board.
were working for the board as a rater the
Yes.
entire time?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I wanted to address the training. During your training period, is that a 90-day period or a 6-month period?
They didn't give me a specific date on the training.
Would it be the expectation that within 90 days you should have been trained? Or should
I should have, oh yeah.
And during that period of time, did you carry a notebook with you everywhere
Yes,
you went?
every day. And I should have.
So your notes would reveal that someone had gone over or not gone over something with you?
Yes.
And that you could go back to that book instead of asking how to do that particular function?
No, well, if it was something that,
Following puppy dog, I can do this. I'm just wondering how much notes you took and how many times you referred back to that for your training. And then maybe how many times you've gone to Gloria and said, gee, I've been trained on this, this, and this, but I'm missing that.
well, yeah, I told Gloria a couple times that the desk, I wasn't being properly trained, and they were going to get Jackie to do it, but she walked out. Jackie, I was supposed to shadow Jackie Jackson. I was supposed to shadow Jackie Jackson, but she walked out on the job. So and at that time, it was a short of staff. So instead of me wanting to just take somebody away from what they're doing, the little I have been taught, then I put my own knowledge with it, and then if I had a question, I would ask someone.
When you first became a full-time employee, you transferred from a different department into this department?
No, I still do
Were you
it.
a contractor that became full-time?
I was a contractor that became full-time employee.
So prior to becoming a full-time employee, did you socialize and be a part of the team? Or did
No.
you always maintain a separate?
Yeah, we wanted them to go up in the front. When we were going in the front.
And when you did go up to the front, did you make an effort to become part of that team, or were you always a member?
When I was a raider,
Yes. No, when you became a full-time employee.
oh yeah, I was a part of the team, yes.
You stated that you should have been, or you felt fully trained or somewhat trained in 90 days.
Well, I figured if I had a person to train me, that I could have gotten pretty close to being able to do anything I needed to do on my own.
And how long were you employed with us?
10 months.
You don't think?
I didn't get properly trained, is what I'm saying. But if I had a one-on-one training in 90 days, I would have been the best. But I didn't get that training, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, did you take an initiative to try to get that training?
Yeah, that's why I was asking questions, yes. But if you remember, 2 of those days out of the week, I wasn't in the office. So that's why it seemed like it's taking me much longer to catch up than a regular person that's in there every day. 2 of those days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in testing all day.
Perfect work situation is always if everyone is cross-trained. And I'm sure Mr. Kim now will agree with me. But unfortunately, unfortunately, I should say not unfortunately, it's a very busy office. And there's a good possibility that you weren't trained the way you felt you should have been. And that's something that we need to look at too. I don't know what else I can say.
Yes, because they were thinking about sending me to Reno, where the office wasn't so busy. So if they were thinking about sending me to Reno, that's a prime example right there that I wasn't getting the training I needed here because of the busyness in the office and the short staff.
But that was all resolved, except for the last, because we had already gone through that.
No, it
I have a 90 days of training record for her from beginning from August to September, from September to October. This was the last of her training, and where the duties were split. And at the end of August 1, at the end of that, I went to Michelle and Anaya. We had a list of things that she was supposed to learn to do to be able to function in the testing department. They were written down. I asked, can you sign the students in? Do you know how to order booklets? Things like that. And she would tell me yes or no. So we went through that list. And at the end of the 90 days, she said that she was able to do all of those things, and those jobs was then split out between the two of them. Anaya had hers, and Sandra had hers. But I also have the other paperwork where we went through each month, beginning in August. Each month we went through this. You will know this by this Friday, this Friday. We had deadlines of what she would learn and when she would learn. She was there.
Right. We already went through all that statement. That was already one of the questions you asked. We already resolved that you were going to stay here because everything was up to par except for the last job description that she's now describing.
Right.
Okay.
All right, that's John. I have a couple of questions. One, have you ever worked in an office environment before to understand professional etiquette?
Yes.
And
Yes, I worked for the state environment.
before. And another is your review. I'm looking at your 30 and I think it's your 90-day review. And as you had mentioned, you're meeting the quality and standards expected for the job. You're setting a good example. You pay attention to detail. You follow policies and procedures, average and excellent. You use common sense. You adapt to change. You work well with others. You're meeting your deadlines. Someone who is not very well trained is really incapable of this kind of a review. So when you say that you weren't trained, I don't see evidence here that corroborates your statement of not
Well,
being trained.
that's because
Do you have something more specific?
yeah, I took initiative to teach myself. I mean, everybody here, they would always say, girl, this job you have to train yourself. You know, we'll tell you, but you got, you know, and they would all say, if you'll get it in a year or two, you'll get it in a year or two. There's so much coming over the counter, so much different things. Now, the testing department, I have that. I had that one-on-one. At the last minute, I got that. But there's still stuff coming over the desk that I've never ran into. That, you know, girl, you'll get it. You'll get it at the end. Don't trip. We went through this too. That's what they would all say. So I figured I would have it in 2 years. You'll get it. That's what they say. But I thought I had it. All the girls.
Anaya?
Anaya, Nadine, Roxanne, Amber, Charlissa, she's gone now. That was her favorite saying. She said, girl, train yourself. Charlissa, Jackie. They always say it. And Anaya, maybe I should have reserved a call back. I didn't know after these questions I could ask her, how long did you tell me I would be here before I got everything?
You do? I have one last question. I sat here for 3 hours listening to what everyone else didn't do and what everyone else should have done. Can you tell me what you could have done to contribute or what you could accept responsibility for? We're not always perfect, but there are some areas in the workplace where there's always need for improvement. I am never happy, 28 years of general accounting management with departments of 39, sometimes up to 38 different data centers, and I am never happy with the absence of needs improvement. Everybody needs improvement. Criticism is the building blocks of what makes you professional. And I want to know what you think you could have done up to now. I mean,
The only
what
thing I-
else could you have done to make it very clear to Gloria you're struggling, or maybe you're not happy or comfortable in your training? You know, what is it that you can tell us that you're going to take
my absences, I take responsibility for that because I was out. My hot water heater did break and it was flooded out and I had to wait on somebody. My daughter was going to school. I had to wait on somebody. My house would have been ruined. It was a condo. But I take full responsibility for that. But as far as not doing my job and having a backload from 2010, I don't take responsibility for that. I did my job. I did my job to the fullest, to the best of my ability. And when I say the best of my ability, the best to what I have been given to work with. And I think that if I had been given more time, I would be one of the best. One of the best. I am a team player. And I think when you are a team player, when you put your staff on 9 to 5, everybody should work 9 to 5. I mean, not Gloria, but Nadine, you know, she went back on 410s and it was her idea for us to work 9 to 5. A team player doesn't let Amber stand at that desk with 10 people. I don't care what you're doing. That's not fair to Amber. So I always get up and go to that desk and help Amber. I take full responsibility of my absences and being late one day, but I was never 30 minutes late. And they're making this one day seem like I was late every day. Every day. I was never late every day. And I always got permission from Gloria when I had a doctor's appointment. And she said she wasn't going to do them at the end of the day anymore, because that's when we went on. I used to make them on Mondays, but we went to the 5 days. I had to start going under. And by far, no means am I saying I'm perfect, because I'm not. Not at all. But I do my job. I bust my butt for the State Board of Cosmetology. And it's not a good thing when people don't see that.
Ms. Smith, I don't think we're questioning the fact of that you have done very well in some cases and some going up to the point. And I don't think that we're trying to make all one day look like this is what you did forever.
Well, that's what it sounds like, though.
Well, it's not. It doesn't to us.
Okay, good.
Okay? And the thing is, there are times when we do get upset in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
What my concern is that it was verbal.
I didn't say that. I didn't. And I,
The audience can't talk.
and I can understand that. I can truly see why you guys might believe it. But if you were on my part, you would look at these like they got together and talked about this. Everybody's statement is so close together. Like they talked about this. Everything was just, seems like it was well rehearsed to me. Because when Vince called me in his office, I honestly was baffled. I didn't know what he was talking about. I had no idea. And when he said, you threatened your supervisor, Gloria, I said, what? I had never heard that. And 3 of those people changed what they were saying. Because first, it's all in there.
Why do you think they would do that? Why would 4 people come forward just against you? You have to realize we have to look at it that way too.
And I have no idea. I have no idea.
Because it's not coming from Miss Alexander.
But that's where my subordination was from. She called Vince and told Vince that I threatened her.
She was told that.
I have no idea why they would want to say that. Because honestly, I can stand here. I swore under oath and said so did they. So they're going to have to answer to their God and me as well if I'm not telling the truth. So I really don't know why they would say that. But Amber was in the office. She didn't write a statement.
Any more questions? Would she make her closing statement first, or?
I think I make the closing statement first, and then she makes it, and then I can make her rebuttal statement.
My question is, any questions for her?
The board is just heard today sworn testimony from 3 witnesses that overheard the statements that Ms. Smith made toward Ms. Alexander. You heard testimony from Ms. Grego, Ms. Powell, and Ms. Spence, and they all overheard the same thing. The statements are not exactly the same. I think if you look at the statements, you'll see the wording isn't exactly the same, but they are similar, and they're similar because they all heard the same thing. They all observed the same thing. And the common word I think they all use is parking lot. There was some allegation that something would happen in the parking lot, or could happen in the parking lot, but the wording they use does vary slightly. You heard testimony from Mr. Gimno that he received the statements from them, and you heard testimony from each of the witnesses that they prepared their own statement. Ms. Davis wasn't here today because she had a funeral, but you have still testimony from 3 other people. But Mr. Gimno did testify that Ms. Davis did prepare that statement that you have from Ms. Davis. Oh, Ms. Travis, excuse me. You have her statement that was prepared from her and that it was given to him by her. And so, and then you have Mr. Gimno's investigation. You have his testimony. He testified that the reason for the termination was insubordination and threats made against her supervisor. The training or lack of training in the work performance isn't the sole determining factor. It's just a factor that is mentioned because it's relevant. But he testified that the same decision would have been reached had her performance been satisfactory or less satisfactory. So the work performance is just an added factor, but it's not the determining factor, and it wasn't the reason for the termination. The reason for the termination were the threats made against Ms. Alexander. Ms. Alexander testified specifically that she heard parking lot. She didn't hear everything because she was walking away. But even her testimony helps to corroborate what the others heard because she heard something. She didn't know what it was. She said, she heard something and she was walking away, and then later, it was told to her these other things. She's testifying that she didn't hear what was said, but she can at least corroborate that something, she heard part of what was said. The unemployment, getting that or not, is not the issue. The issue is whether or not Mr. Gimno's decision to terminate Ms. Smith was appropriate and should be upheld under the board policies. I think the board policies are clear that workplace safety is important. People should feel safe and protected when they come to work. People shouldn't be subjected to people threatening other people in the workplace, even if it's not a threat directed at them, even if it's just directed at a coworker. That's not something that can be tolerated in the workplace. It's possible that the poor performance issues could have been dealt with by using the progressive discipline and additional training. But when Ms. Smith chose to make threats towards her supervisor, that opportunity was lost. And Mr. Gimno investigated, he talked to everybody, you heard sworn testimony from him, from Ms. Alexander, from those witnesses, and that testimony and the investigation that he did supported the fact that the threats were made and that Ms. Smith acted insubordinately and threatened her supervisor. And so he acted appropriately in terminating her, and we would ask that the board vote to uphold the termination of Ms. Smith.
Okay. Well, in my closing arguments, I want to say that I never threatened Gloria, like I said before, and I know she know I didn't threaten her. But if she heard parking lot coming from me, I don't know what it could have been relating to. And as far as me being terminated for insubordination, that is when I disobeyed or threatened her to her and not do what she asked me to do. So I don't think I should be terminated on the grounds of insubordination or threatening Gloria, because nobody, I guess they really don't realize how much this job meant to me. Because if they did, they wouldn't have come up with something as faulty as me saying I want to fight Gloria in the parking lot. We work across from the highway patrol. Everybody know our parking lot is fully covered in cameras. We all know that. So why would I want to take Gloria to the parking lot to fight her? Gloria helped me get the job. And when I had a problem, I went to Gloria first with training or anything else. And in the beginning, we had some problems, not Gloria and I, but we had problems with, I guess, coming from the gym Vince, Jim know that I walked with authority. So I think maybe in the beginning, maybe I wasn't welcome. I don't know, but I guess I thought I tried to get, I don't know how you could walk with authority, but that was a problem. We all kind of got that solved, but I don't know. I don't think that this is reason for termination, because I think if I had said it to Gloria, yes, terminate. I think if I even so much as looked around here being mean or anything, everybody I'm always smiling at this place. Even though the workload is heavy, I'm always smiling when I'm doing my job. So I don't think the board should uphold me. I don't think the board should take this job away from me because people said that I threatened Gloria. I didn't threaten Gloria. I did not threaten Gloria. But I have to get this point across. Nobody knows how important this is to me. I didn't threaten Gloria, and I do want to say that I don't want the board to uphold the decision in terminating me. Because I think I earned my job, and I think I should be able to keep it. And at least get another chance to show you guys what I can do. And, I didn't get a write-up or warning for the supposed threat. I mean, it was just a one-day thing. Bam, you're out of here. And that was right.
I don't have a further statement. I would just rest with what I presented. Absolutely. It's now your time to deliberate and make a decision. Yes. Motion first? Make a motion first, and then discuss it, or discuss and then.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to uphold Vince Gimno's decision to terminate Sandra Smith based on the proof of insubordination. It's been validated by 3 witnesses. Also, the validity of the people that are in this courtroom, that they have proven.
Hold on just a second and get a second, and then you can discuss and deliberate.
I'd like the second.
Motion made by Member Rinaldi, seconded by Member Jones.
And
Now we're open for discussion.
talk about the basis for your.
Okay, well, I feel it's a valid point. Threats are never acceptable in the workplace, and as an employer, if it ever happened to me, I would be sued, and I would have to immediately terminate anybody that worked for me that even threatened anything like that. If nothing else mattered, right then, as soon as the threats happened, that's all that can matter. So, as an employer, that's enough for me. So, based work, I feel like that was in addition to that. I feel like they've proven several times, documented times, which is proof that the performance was unacceptable.
I feel that the threat is the same thing as an employer. I wouldn't allow it to happen. And if somebody had come to me and told me someone had threatened myself or someone else, I would go to the person and ask them. And then I would have to decide, I would have to take it upon myself to decide who I believed. So, it's a hard thing.
I based my decision on the credible witnesses that we heard testify today, the credibility. I don't know you. I don't know what's part of your personality. I don't know how you get angry. But I do know that because of all of the bullying and problems in workplaces and on school grounds, threats, bullying, hostile behavior is taken extremely seriously today, maybe more so than they did in the past. And Vince's job is to protect the environment, and being a hostile person doesn't have to be someone who threatens to kill, threatens to harm physically. It can be your personality and the way you huff around. It can be how you voice how you're feeling, and it can make people in the workplace go down and become afraid, take the energy right out of the room, and strong sense that that's what has happened. So I'm going to have to side with the credibility of the witnesses that testified today, and I stand by the decision.
I found also that the witnesses were credible. And I also felt that Mr. Chimno investigated this thoroughly. And I don't believe that it was them out to get me. I really felt, in fact, one in particular witness really came over strong to me. And I felt like she was very good in what she said. And I feel that there was a threat made, and I don't feel comfortable with that in the workplace. And so I'm going to also have to say that we have to rule that. So is there any more discussion?
Nobody feels she needs an attorney.
We can't say nothing? No.
Because I'm just saying, she needs an attorney.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can I ask one question? Why wasn't all the board members present? Because it doesn't always have to be all board members?
No, we have a quorum.
It's not, the meeting, it's a special meeting, it's the last minute, we got a quorum. And the law allows the board to have a meeting with, as long as there's a quorum, which means for us that.
Okay. It is what it is. She is not a vote. Written.
Okay, I guess that takes us to item 4, comments by the board, future agenda items.
I would like to discuss some of the things that we could put in place to help avoid misunderstandings. And one of the things I'd like to have discussed might be standard business practices that may not be in place today. Some things as detailed as individual work procedures, assignment events, the name. But I would like to make sure that we have a orientation list where the employee signs and initials as detailed as possible